Witness F's contact list as Comrade Didi Mabuza, Deputy President, and the Gauteng cop has been read out at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. Witness F denied that the number belonged to the late former president, claiming it was in fact that of his nephew, Spiwe Mabuza. Evidence leader Matthew Chaskelson read out the message from Spiwe Mabuza to Witness F.
Hey brother, do you have a market for a compact CQC, close quarter combat, 12-gauge shotgun, manufactured in South Africa, pick attached? I have access to 750 units in knockdown component form, plus spares, ready for shipping with matching flashbang ammo, see videos, at family price.
Witness F claims he never tested the guns, despite responding, "I need to see and test." Arun Singh, Eyewitness News.
For live updates on the Commission, visit ewn.co.za or watch live proceedings on our YouTube channel. Meanwhile, in the National Assembly, the evidence of a former state security agency official was delayed today because he didn't have the relevant permission from the Director General to testify. Olile Mashukuka, the former chairperson of the State Security Agency, was set to make a public submission today, but evidence leaders raised issues on whether he is certified to submit what could possibly be classified information. The public hearings continued for a second week today, with 4 more submissions expected today. Babalon Denza has more.
The Parliament Ad Hoc Committee is continuing with its public submissions this week as it enters the business end of its proceedings. But the first public submission today from Olile Mashukuka, a former SSA official, had to be postponed while he gets the relevant authority to address the committee. Evidence leader, Advocate Norman Aronser.
There is an issue that I've raised with you which relates to whether or not he had sought the consent of the Director General of SSA to give evidence before us.
Mashukuka says he was not aware he needed permission and doesn't see a problem with his evidence because he's no longer employed by state security.
Because I'm no longer a member of that organization and I'm not aware of any provision of such nature because I also operate in other capacities since I left that organization.
The committee continued with its public hearings, with whistleblower Patricia Mashale giving evidence about police corruption. Babalo Ndenze, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
Water and Sanitation Deputy Minister David Mahlobo says water supply is gradually being restored on parts of Midrand after improvements in reservoirs. The Deputy Minister and Joburg Mayor Dada Morero gave an update this afternoon at the Midrand Water Depot on the state of water supply to the suburb after days with no water. Mahlobo says at the peak of the disruption, pumping water was not possible, leaving reservoirs critically low. The water disruption was caused by emergency repairs and technical challenges. A power outage at the Zekerbosch treatment plant exacerbated the crisis. Mahlobo says a phased restoration is currently underway.
At the current point where we are, we should be able to have a number of areas to start to get water, especially in the 4 areas that Comrade Mayor we have referred to. But the area of Grand Central remains our biggest concern. And we've directed the teams of Randwater, Joburg City, Eguruleni, and Swane that they must be able to work together so that we can be able to recalibrate because it's an integrated system.
We move to the courts where the Modimolle Regional Court in Limpopo has been presented with evidence showing that more than 9.5 million rand was deposited into the bank account of the alleged mastermind in the Parapara burglary, Emanuela David. David is charged alongside siblings Froliana and Ndili Nasho Joseph. The trio is accused of breaking into and entering President Cyril Ramaphosa's farm in February 2020 and stealing $580,000 in cash. Tabiso Goba has been attending court proceedings.
A new state witness has taken the stand today. A Hawks detective working in the Financial Crimes Division, who was tasked with investigating the financial transactions of accused number 1, Emanuela David, and his alleged accomplices. The detective says there were large amounts of money flowing into David's accounts after February 2020, which is when the burglary at Parapara took place.
The total amount that was deposited into the account for the period 3 February 2020 to the 31st May 2022 was 9,594,114.30.
According to earlier testimony in this case, prior to 2020, David was in between jobs. His last known formal employment was working as a security guard. Tabiso Koba, Eyewitness News, Limpopo.
And a U.S. judge is set to hear a request to block access to the Epstein files. The Justice Department released more than 3 million files last week related to the investigation into the disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein, including links to high-profile figures. Epstein died in custody in 2019. In a letter to judges overseeing the case, lawyers representing the victims listed documents in the latest cache, which they said revealed victims' names and some personal details. The lawyers have requested an immediate takedown of the government website showing the files. Gold's trading at $4,915.89 an ounce. The rand's at 15.98 to the dollar, at 21.85 to the pound, at 18.85 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $66.47 a barrel.
And in your traffic in Midrand, there are heavy delays on the November 1 North between Olifantsfontein Road and New Road due to an earlier accident. And travelling on the Mike 1 South, there are delays between Empire Road and the double-decker section.
In your sport, World Rugby defend World Cup opening match after fixtures are released. Arsenal and Chelsea fight for a Carabao Cup final spot. And Tiger Woods says a return to competitive golf is a long way off.
Look at your weather. It's a partly cloudy afternoon in Gauteng today with thunder showers expected. Temperatures are peaking at highs between 27 and 30 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. The Madlanga Commission has heard of a possible arms deal between a Gauteng cop and an alleged relative of the late former Deputy President David Mabuza.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app. Your brain's a well-oiled machine. Now put it to work in the brain of 702. Enter on primemediaplus.com. T's and C's apply.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app. DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
.702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman is proudly brought to you by Telkom Business. Possibility begins here. Good afternoon, everyone. It's 10 minutes past 3 on Tuesday, the 3rd of February. This is 702 Drive with me, John Perlman. Wherever you are listening to us in 702 land, welcome to the show. Will he stay or will he go? For much of today, it has been said with increasing certainty that John Steenhuisen will not seek re-election as DA leader. But then the man himself posted this on X more or less 2 hours ago. He said, first informed us that he'd be making an announcement of national importance at 10 a.m. tomorrow. And then, quote, until you see me outlining the full set of facts tomorrow, avoid speculation. So with everything a lot murkier, we'll see if we can get some clarity from former DA leader Tony Leon. That's at 10 past 5. By the way, to emphasize the point, he posted a picture from U.S. politics of the man who became the American president, Harry Truman, holding up a newspaper in which I think it was the Chicago Tribune had confidently written, Dewey, his rival in the race, beats Truman. So, yeah, saying the end of the stick is definitely the wrong one if you happen to be grabbing that. That seems to be what John Steenhuisen is saying. We'll find out. In other stories, the people of Midrand, Ivory Park and other communities in Gauteng's north and northeast are having to endure a very difficult time without water. What's gone wrong and why hasn't it been fixed? We'll talk to Gugulethu Zuma from Joburg Water after 4. WhatsApps with alarming implications involving Vusimuzi Matlala and implicating Deputy National Police Commissioner Shadrach Sabir, with the focus of attention at the Madlanga Commission today. A rather strange day, which involved a long preamble with some, I would say, fairly significant disagreements, can I call them? I think so, between the evidence leader and the commissioners about how to proceed. Oren Singh steps in after 4 with the latest. And 30 years ago today, we all jumped out of our seats and took to the streets, or maybe just your front garden, to celebrate this moment.
Kamalo. There's Fish with a back header off the post. Tinkler came up, there it's. They've done it. Williams got in there. The pressure paid off. These two towering men causing the initial damage by their height. And at last they waited a long, long time for this.
Yeah, Mark Williams did it once and then he did it again, having come off the bench. South Africa 2, Tunisia 0. Where were you in Bafana Bafana? Won the African Cup of Nations for the first and so far only time. Send us your memories, send us your thoughts. You may also want to reflect on where South African football has gone over the last 3 decades. But let's keep it focused on the day itself, Saturday at the FNB Stadium. I was there. It was special. We'll talk to one of the legends from the class of 1996 after 5. On the markets, the JSE has bounced back strongly today by around 1,900 points. That's a recovery of 1.6%. The resources index, the cause of all the trouble over the past 2 days, is driving today's gains, unsurprisingly, up last time I looked by 4.73%. Anglo Gold, looking at some individual stocks, up by 6.3%. Implats by 6.2%. Valterra has gained 5%. On the downside, We Buy Cars off by 5.6%. Bytes has lost 3.3%. And Bidcorp is down by 2.2%. The rand is trading at 16 rand and 2 cents against the dollar. Currency nice and stable. A euro will cost you 18 rand 89. That's a gain for our currency of 7 cents. 21 rand and 88 cents will get you a pound. The oil price, Brent crude, is currently trading at $66.42 a barrel. Not much movement there. Stephen Crudis joins us with all the market news at 4:25. We'll have sport with Tolakele Mganga. Maki Molapo back with the very latest news headlines. And we've got Kabazela Jonathan Fairbairn keeping an eye on the roads for us today. This is 702 Drive. We're live in the place where you live. And if it's happening in 702 land, you will hear about it here first. But if there's something we've missed or something where there's a detail missing or an angle somewhat off, please do get in touch. 072-702-1702 for WhatsApps, either voice notes or text, and 011-883-0702 if you want to call and chat and debate. You'll find us on that number. It's 3:15.
702.
Let's walk the talk.
Now, later in the show, we're going to be doing a very interesting thing. Oresti Patricios is someone very much involved in the advertising industry. He's a brand thinker and CEO at a company called Ornico. And what he's doing at Ornico is creating a library of important and memorable and significant South African adverts. And we're going to be talking to him about what gets an ad into the library, why is he doing the collection in the first place. But we thought we'd start with you and ask you, if you had to choose a South African ad, nominate it, put it forward, that you think really does deserve being kept in some kind of special collection, not because we're going to go there and have a look at it or anything like that, but it's an acknowledgement of significance or just a fabulous memory for you of an advert. So South African ads that ought to be preserved for posterity and that you really enjoy being reminded about. Drop me a note on that on 072-702-1702 if you want to perform the punchline or the key part of the ad for us on a voice note, even better. 072-702-1702. Otherwise, text or a call if you prefer communicating that way. Kabazela, good afternoon to you.
Afternoon, John.
Stepping in to keep us updated on the traffic, and you're going to do that in a moment.
Yeah.
Special, memorable ad?
Sure, there's so many. I mean, and most of them happen to be TV ads. I was trying to think of radio adverts that I could remember or recall, and I'm struggling a little bit, I must be honest. But some of the TV ads that I do remember that stood out were, there was a whole bunch of those Vodacom adverts with, the Yebo Gogo theme and Michael de Pinner in that real Gey character. That one, those were really great. And then there was a Wimpy advert, which I really loved, where there's a guy and his missus, they're sitting on the stoop, and he starts saying to her, cappuccino.
Yes.
Macchiato.
Okay.
And he lists all these coffee brands, and then she says, "Oh, I love it when you talk foreign."
Oh, okay. And that's quite reminiscent of the scene from A Fish Called Wanda.
Yeah,
I don't know if you remember that, but the character played by Jamie Lee Curtis absolutely loved being spoken to in foreign languages. John Cleese did rather well as her counterpart in that. Okay, so those are nice ones.
I love those. But there's so many. I mean, I'm excited to see what our 702 family will come up with.
Yeah, indeed. So let's focus just at least to get us started, if you will, on television ads, because there's a nice visual memory that we can conjure up, that you can conjure up with the description that you have. Rifua, maybe a newer generation of ads. What have you got?
Good afternoon, John, and to the rest of the 702 family. So I've got two that I can think of immediately. I think I was not even in grade 7. There was one, I think it was the Mazda, where the advert would say, zoom, 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 here, zoom, zoom, zoom. I would stop everything, John, and literally sing along. Yeah, it was the zoom, zoom, zoom one. And then there was one, it was an MTN advert where this lady, it's on a Sunday, she's speaking to her son, she runs out of airtime, she's going to church. So she's going to different shops and she's trying to find someone with airtime. And then she finds one of the church dancers, the people in the choir.
Right.
And then this guy, this cool looking guy with glasses, he looked really fabulous. He's like, Mama, get potato. So they were saying potato was like airtime you can buy for 5 rand.
Oh,
and
it's
then
also drain pipe trousers. I was trying to connect.
It was just a crazy, beautiful advert where now she's happy. She continues the conversation with her son, and everyone is talking about this 5 rand potato that you can get with MTN.
Yeah. Okay. So there's some lovely ones already. I've got one in mind. As Jono said, there are so many. But let's hear yours. If you could. Here's Gareth. Gareth. This is a wonderful one for Cremora. It's not inside. It's on top.
Oh, yes. Toppy.
And I'm repeating myself here because I know I've mentioned it on 702, but I cannot miss it. Chris Vick, who many of you know, radio presenter, but Chris was a legendary newspaper man at City Press. And when General Charles Sebe, I think he was brigadier, actually went to jail, he was the kind of strong man in the Ciskei, putting down opposition to the Bantustan system and so on. When he was arrested, Chris did a headline that said, he's not on top, he's inside.
Oh, no.
So there you go. Ads finding their way into newspaper headlines. Please do share those with us on 011 883 0702 072 702 1702. 20 past 3. The winner of the Karabo Charlie lookalike contest, not Jonathan Fairbairn. You got the traffic.
Yeah, so there seems to be an issue in Midrand, John. There's heavy delays on the November 1 North between Olifantsfontein Road and New Road due to an earlier accident. And on the Mike 1 South, there are delays between Empire Road and the double-decker section. So, just keep us informed as to what's happening there and the latest there. Updates on the 702 WhatsApp line 072 702 1702. Traffic lights that are out, but there are pointsmen on duty at these traffic lights. We have Edenvale at Modderfontein and Van Riebeck. In Alexandra, traffic at the N3 and the London Road, off-ramps, and in Midrand at the November 1 North and Olifantsfontein. If I've missed anything else, please do let us know on 072 702 1702. Kabazela, EWN Traffic.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Okay, so we've got a couple of you already. I can see that this is really prompting a lot of memories of ads that people liked and good times had, perhaps watching TV, and those ads coming up. Please do keep them coming on 072 702 1702, and we will be chatting, as I said, to Oresti Patricios, who is the person behind putting together this collection of memorable ads and important ads into a library. I'm not exactly sure who the library is for and how it will work, but it's certainly got us talking. Oresti with us at about 10 minutes to 4. It's 21 minutes past 3.
Drive home with John Perlman
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
Right, let's go down to Parliament. I mean, this in many ways. I spoke about the Madlanga Commission inquiry yesterday, looking into corruption, criminality and political interference in the criminal justice system. And I said some of what I heard yesterday kind of made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. But that's happened a fair amount of time too in the inquiry that the Standing Committee on Public Accounts down in Parliament, headed by its chair Songezo Zibi, has been conducting into the Road Accident Fund. The committee was busy today, and we are keen to find out what's come out. Brace yourself. Lindsay Dentlinger, EWN reporter, has been there. Lindsay, I don't know if I'm overstating it, but I found some of the details really quite alarming. What's come out today?
Good afternoon, John. Well, that committee is still sitting into this afternoon. And I think for me, what was most surprising is that this interim board that has been in place since August, and incidentally, their term ends in just a few days, unless the minister says otherwise tomorrow. They actually say they don't know, John, how to fix some of the problems at the Road Accident Fund. The interim chairperson, Kenneth Brown, says it doesn't take very long to break down an organization, but it takes a lot of time to build it back up. And while he has told the committee about some positive steps that they believe that they've been able to take up until now, the biggest problem is funding the Road Accident Fund. And Kenneth Brown saying that he didn't believe that even if you doubled the fuel levy, that was going to be the answer. And the chairperson of the Audit and Risk Committee on that board, Tina Mthembu, when asked by a parliamentarian as to what do you propose should be done, she said, quite honestly, I do not know.
Whoa.
So that is quite scary, asking Parliament also to give, to step in really and come up with a better revenue model for the Road Accident Fund, John.
It is quite startling. And I mean, if I've got the right Kenneth Brown, I mean, he was served with, as I understand it, considerable distinction in National Treasury. So money is something that he knows, funding and the best use of public cash is something that would have been his stock in trade in the job he last held. I mean, presumably they didn't just throw their hands up and say, listen, we have no idea what to do. What kind of examples did they give? Is it mainly around the funding? I mean, are they at least saying that some of the issues of governance and probity can be dealt with?
John, I think from what they're trying to bring across is that without trying to apportion blame anywhere, I think what they are trying to say is that the way in which the Road Accident Fund is set up legislatively makes it very difficult to work around alternate options, even when it comes down to the claims process. And the chairperson, Kenneth Brown, saying a lot about this, being very honest, saying this is a laborious process, that this new form makes it even more so. And he's gone as far as to say that the process is, especially when it comes to the death of road accident victims, and he cited the example of the young children who died in the scholar transport just recently. He said it was quite inhumane what was actually being expected of their families to try to get money to pay for injuries and funeral costs and the like. But also saying that a lot of the way in which the fund is set up, it's geared towards almost lawyers. There's a lot of criticism about how lawyers might be, some of them are very devious and the kind of money that they extract from this whole process. But the board saying, well, this is the way this has been legislatively set up, and it makes it so difficult for people that it's almost helping the legal fraternity to milk what they do out of the system. And also the kinds of court judgments that have been delivered, for example, forcing the Road Accident Fund to make payouts within 180 days. The example cited before the inquiry today was that at the end of December, they needed to make payouts of 20 billion rand, and they didn't have even 5 billion rand in the bank. So really, they say they can make all the governance changes. They've already taken the steps to make cultural, working towards more ethical employer relations and the like, but really their hands are tied when it comes to this funding issue, and it is what leads to many of the problems, obviously, that this fund has been facing over the years.
Thanks so much, Lindsay Dentley, covering this exhaustive and I think sometimes exhausting inquiry into the state of the Road Accident Fund. Just briefly, if any of you have had to deal with the RAF, maybe you're a lawyer engaged with that fund, maybe you or a family member or someone whose lives you're involved in whatever way, have been trying to make claims and get compensated. It is something, after all, that we all contribute to. Share with us your experiences. I mean, we're getting the big, wide, and I have to say, alarmingly deep picture of the problems there, but a story, nothing illustrates consequence quite like a personal story. So if you've got one to share, 072-702-1702, 27 minutes past 3.
John is on X.
At John Perlman.
Well, from one end of the country to the other, not quite, but we head north now to Modimolle in Limpopo, which is where the alleged Palapala burglars are appearing. And it would seem, from what I've heard, bits and pieces from today, that they're actually getting into the meat of the matter. I know in the early part there was a lot of procedural stuff, possibly even the equivalent of a trial within a trial or something similar. But they're underway, and Tabiso Goba, our EWN colleague, is there. Tabiso, very good afternoon to you. Key points that have come up today. What's been happening?
Good afternoon, John. Well, there's been two state witnesses today. The first one was a conveyancer, Rustenburg-based conveyancer, who testified about a property that was bought by the sister of accused number one, Emanuela David. Now, this property was bought on the 18th of February 2020. This was almost a week after that burglary at the President Cyril Ramaphosa's farm. So it was bought by the sister of Emanuela David, and it was later sold about 3 years later. However, the conveyancer saying it was interesting that the proceeds from the sale did not go to Emanuela David's sister, but went to another company. And the prosecutor said that this information is part of the money laundering charge that they are building against accused number one, Emanuela David. Now, the current gentleman currently testifying is a hoax detective. He works in the Financial Crimes Division. Now, he has just been going through the many transactions that Emanuela David in particular has sort of been from his bank accounts. And we can say that, John, as we've reported, that between 2020 and 2022, there was at least 9.5 million in cash deposits that came into Emanuela David's account. Now, this is interesting because during this time, Emanuela David was unemployed. And
yes.
So, eventually, at some point in this trial, he does have to take the stand and actually defend himself and say, where exactly did this money come from? So about 9.5 million came into his account. But now there's also, we've also heard about how some of that money also went to some of his accomplices, the people that he was with, some of them in Namibia. And you remember, John, that there are two Namibian gentlemen that the Hawks are still looking for. They're still speaking with the Namibian government to actually hand them over, because there are two people who were part of the burglary. However, they left South Africa before they could be apprehended by those law enforcement officials. So we've heard today in court how some of that money actually went to the Namibian accounts linked to those gentlemen who are still fugitives from justice.
Well, it certainly is underway in a lot of detail now. Tabiso Goba is out in Modimolle in Limpopo, up the N1, and he's keeping an eye on that Palapala case. 702 Drive, it's 3:30. Marky Molapo has the very latest eyewitness news. The water crisis in parts of Joburg is bringing the councillors out with strong words. Marky, what have you got? Good afternoon.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. Some ward councillors in parts of Johannesburg have hit out at Joburg water officials for what they've described as a failure to provide residents with basic services. The latest criticism against the water utility comes as the city's water challenges reach breaking point. Parts of Johannesburg have been without water for several days after supply systems came under severe pressure following emergency repair work and operational disruptions at key Rand water facilities. Joburg officials say the restoration process is at an advanced stage in parts of the city, but residents in Midrand staged a protest today calling for an urgent resolution. Ward 132 councillor Annette Depper says city officials have snubbed local leaders, failing to give any updates on the matter, further frustrating residents.
You know what? The disrespect they have for councillors is is just not acceptable. If they think they can run the city on Twitter and Facebook and all those other online services, they got another thing coming. We have protocol in the city of Joburg. They have to work through the regions and through the councillors.
In the courts, convicted murderer and rapist Thabo Bester is approaching the courts to challenge a decision to move him to South Africa's only super maximum security prison. Last week, it emerged that Bester had been moved from the Kgosi Mampuru Correctional Centre in Pretoria to the Ebongweni Correctional Facility in Kokstad. The Correctional Services Department says the decision to move Bester was taken following a thorough security and threat assessment. Bester was rearrested by police in Tanzania in 2023 following his brazen escape from the Mangaung prison in Bloemfontein. He fled the facility while serving life behind bars for rape and murder. Dimakazo Leshoro has more.
Thabo Bester is a second high-profile accused to be transferred from Kgosi Mampuru in Pretoria to a Supermax facility in Kokstad. Just last week, lawyers for Vusi Musiket Matlala told the High Court in Johannesburg that his transfer to Ebongweni is interfering with his legal team's ability to adequately prepare his defense. In the urgent application seen by Eyewitness News, Bester is seeking an immediate transfer back to Gauteng, but not specifically Kgosi Mampuru. He also appeals that the Correctional Services Department be interdicted and restricted from transferring him back to Ebongweni for the duration of his criminal case. The application is set to be heard next Tuesday. Dimakazo Leshoro, Eyewitness News.
In the Western Cape, the City of Cape Town says its AI-powered traffic cameras will be able to detect distracted driving. The Road Traffic Management Corporation had approached the Metro to pilot the project on Philip Khosana Drive, but the municipality is still awaiting authorization from the NPA. City Traffic spokesperson Kevin Jacobs says the cameras can already detect cell phone use and drivers who are not wearing seatbelts, but distracted driving is another offence it can address.
So, for example, eating something is not necessarily on its own distracted driving, but distracted driving where somebody's eating and he appears to lose control is a conversation that can be had.
Jacob says an adjudication process will follow the AI photograph.
That's why we have the adjudication process. So the adjudication process then looks at the image captured and then asks the question, is this reasonable? Is it legal? Can we charge the motorist? And even if we feel it passes that test, the motorist can still make a submission to say, well, I disagree.
And French authorities investigating social media platform X have summoned Elon Musk to answer questions about its Grok AI chatbot. France opened an investigation last month following the proliferation of sexually explicit deepfakes generated by Grok on X. Summons for voluntary interviews in April in Paris have been sent to Musk and a former CEO in their capacity as de facto and de jure managers of the X platform at the time of the events. A recent study estimates that Grok could have produced up to 3 million sexualized images in 11 days this month alone, including 23,000 of children. A look at your weather. A partly cloudy afternoon in Gauteng today with thunder showers expected. Temperatures are peaking at highs between 27 and 30 degrees.
And in your traffic, travelling on the Mike 1 South, there are delays between Empire Road and the double-decker section.
The top story in Eyewitness News. Some ward councillors in parts of Johannesburg have hit out at Joburg water officials for what they've described as a failure to provide residents with basic services.
Clement Maniatella.
Weekday mornings,
9 to 12.
9 to 12.
How long do you think it's going to take for us to clear that backlog, and where is it sitting at now?
The backlog is huge. Remember, when I'm saying to you we've built 4 million houses, you don't know who's staying in that house. And there have been always accusations of corruption, houses not handed over. So we are having a program with SITA, technologically, where we would want to load everybody. We're going to load and say Clement Maniatella stays in RDP in Jablan. He received it in 1996. And you're going to say, hey, I've never received that house. You can also be able to check yourself in the phases that will come as a beneficiary that, oh, okay, yes, I'm registered and now I'm number what.
Minister, let me thank you. Thank you so much for making time for us.
Clement Maniatella.
9 to 12 on 702.
The Cape Town Cycle Tour returns on Sunday, 8 March, inviting riders to be part of one of the world's most iconic cycling events. Choose between the classic 109-kilometre route or the 42-kilometre option, both offering unforgettable scenery along the way. And in 2026, the tour gains UCI Gran Fondo World Series status, with the opportunity to qualify for the World Championships. Enter now at capetowncycletour.com.
The festive rush doesn't wait. Orders, deliveries, messages, calls. This summer, you'll need connectivity that doesn't tap out when the pressure is on. With Telkom Business, you get reliable, high-speed connectivity for just $2.99 per month. That's our unlimited LTE, all hours basic plan, 10 megabytes per second. No caps, no excuses.
This summer, your business deserves the best. Visit telkom.co.za/business for deals that grow your business. T's and C's apply. Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6.
Business conditions appear to be improving. The Absa Purchasing Managers Index rising to 48.7 points in January from just 40.5 in December.
So when you look at the January data, the PMI increased by 8.2 points to 48.7 points. Yes, it's still below the 15 mark, but we take easy wins where we can.
Selo Sokele, the Absa economist there.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Curtis is brought to you by Absa CIB, returning as proud investment theme sponsor of the African Mining Indaba 2026. Absa is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Good afternoon, John and team. What a lovely topic. Chevy here. One of my favorite adverts is a Standard Bank ad, actually, when they used to sponsor the Proteas. It's a group of kids, they're playing cricket outside, and they start from the morning until the night. And then when one of the kids' mom comes in, and then it's like, Jonathan, come in, it's getting late. And then you see the kid turn around and say, but mom, it's a day-night game. It's a classic, man. Classic South African ad.
MTN airtime advert is classic. Happy birthday, happy Thabo Baloyi. Yes, that's the Pototo advert whereby the mom wanted to wish the son happy birthday, and then they had to call, and then there was a choir singing. So love it. It's classic.
Hi John, so one advert that I've always loved is an X advert wherein take me Steve over, take me, I'm yours forevermore. So these guys come complaining to Steve Volvo about how he is stealing their girls because of his wonderful X perfume or roll-on. Take me Steve Volvo, I'm yours forevermore.
I am Cebu. Dun-dun-dun, 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 dun-dun-dun. I'm only human, after all. I'm only human, after all. Don't put the blame on me. That was the chicken licking advert, where the guy made a robot that looks like himself, a replica of himself, and then make sure that the robot was available to be with his family when he went out to go and eat chicken licking. So every time the robot will introduce I am Cebu when they go out or meet people. That was the chicken licking advert.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's interesting because I've been trying to think about, a favorite of mine. And as people come with theirs, I'm prompted to think of others. So the cricket one, which I thought was stunning, a day-night match, and they were playing in the street somewhere. Lovely, lovely ad. I would, now I'm prompted to think of a cricket ad that I really liked as well. But later for that, not much later, because we can get Tola Kele's view on that. But first, she's going to give us the very latest sport.
EWN Sport.
Tolakele, opening match of the 2027 Rugby World Cup. It is a little bit strange, but you've got the story.
Absolutely, John. And World Rugby has defended launching that World Cup with Australia playing Hong Kong. That's amid criticism that it's a mismatch between the host nation and the Asian debutants. The expanded 24-team tournament features 52 matches across 19 match days in 7 cities, with a shortened pool stage but a new knockout round of 16. South Africa will begin their bid for a third successive title against Italy in Adelaide on the 3rd of October, followed by games against Georgia and Romania. Over to the Betway Premiership, where it's 1-4 this evening as the Orlando Pirates travel to the Moses Mabhida Stadium to take on AmaZulu. A win for the Buccaneers will move them 3 points clear of Mamelodi Sundowns, while Adeslam Madu has hailed the influence of Rilem Fugeng on his side.
If you have seen every time when we played him in that position, especially just before the break, I think we played him 3 games, 3 or 4 games. He gave us 3 or 4 assists in that position. So it's good. It's good to have players who are able to play in many positions. It's good for a coach.
A spot in the Carabao Cup final is up for grabs as Arsenal host Chelsea in the second leg of their semi-final tonight. The Gunners lead the tie 3-2 and Mikel Arteta has called on them to finish the job.
Yeah, but every semi-final and every competition is different. Tomorrow we're going to have to prove it. We did it very well in Stamford Bridge for a big period of the game, and tomorrow we're going to have to do it for the entire game.
And Tiger Woods says it'll still be some more time before he returns to professional golf, having watched his Jupiter Link side earn their first TGL win in 2026. Woods last competed in an official PGA Tour event in July 2024. That's when he missed the cut at the Open. He was then ruled out of the entire 2025 season, having ruptured his Achilles in March and then underwent disc replacement surgery in October. In total, Woods has only made 11 competitive starts since a car crash back in 2021. Tolakele Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
You're with John Perlman
on 702.
Yeah, I must admit, when I saw Australia versus Hong Kong as the opening game of a Rugby World Cup, my mind couldn't help going back to Thursday, the 25th of May, 1995. Newlands Stadium, 5:30 kickoff. I think it was certainly late in the afternoon. South Africa 27, defending champions, Australia 18. Now, that was a World Cup opening game in my view. 17 minutes to 4. Let's get the very latest traffic news with Jonathan Fairbairn.
EWN Traffic.
Thanks, John. If you are stuck in Midrand, there are heavy delays on the November 1 North between Olifantsfontein Road and New Road due to an earlier accident. Travelling on the Mike 1 South, there are delays between Empire Road and the double-decker section. In Bedford View, there are delays on the N12 and R24 West between Edenvale Road and the Galulies interchange. Some of the traffic lights that are out of order, but they do have pointsmen on duty in Edenvale at Modderfontein and Van Riebeck. In Alexander, traffic lights are out at the N3 and London Road. In Midrand at the November 1 North and Olifantsfontein, and in Bryanston at Main Road and Grosvenor. Let's move across to Tshwane, and the same thing there really with the traffic lights. There's no other major issues besides these, but they are manned by pointsmen. So in Centurion at the R101 and Brakfontein Road in Loladia, in Derdepoort at Sefako Makato and the November 1, and in Centurion at John Forster Drive and Lenshin. Now, if you see anything or if there's anything I missed, you're often the first one there on scene to see what goes on. So please do let us know so we can warn the rest of 702 land. You can send us a WhatsApp on 072 702 1702, or you can tweet us at EWN Traffic. Kabazela, EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app. You're now listening to 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
So coming up shortly, we're going to talk to somebody in the ad industry, Oresti Patricios. He's doing a very interesting thing, creating an ad library of significant and important and presumably excellent South African ads. And I was just saying, if you were to nominate an ad that you absolutely feel should be in some kind of collection of South African television advertising, well, give us your suggestions. We've got some great memories from people already. Somebody says they're going to send us a voice note. Yes, please. We always enjoy hearing those. Cecil, windy with Desmond Dube, I beg your pardon, says Yahya. John has put together, though, the sound from a couple of ads. They're TV ads. We're going to play them, and I'm pretty sure you can conjure up the pictures. But if we do need to actually fill in any blanks for you, we'll do that in a moment. But let's take you back and build in some advertising memories into the conversation.
And now contestant number 7, Macatini.
Cadbury's Lunch Bar with nuts, toasty rice, caramel and wafer, all in Cadbury's Dairy Milk Chocolate.
Did you see that, Jimmy? You threw that miles away.
That's nothing. What's this? Duck? Fetch.
Yeah, so Makatini from Pietermaritzburg. Yeah, that was an ad that a lot of people know and a lot of people remember. Tolakele, let's bring you into the conversation. Ads, if you were nominating that were just South African classics and ought to be kept and looked after and have us reminded of them from time to time. Give us a few or your favorite, whichever you prefer.
My favorite one, without a doubt, is the Joko ad where the guy's late for his flight and he tries to get the flight attendant to get him on board. And he's like, my flight is 9:30. This is a business class ticket. And then he says to her, she keeps on repeating, I can't get you on the flight. He's like, do you know who I am? And then he throws the paper at her. Then she takes a sip of her Joko, turns on the intercom and goes, ladies and gentlemen, we have a man here who doesn't know who he is. Can someone come help him? So every time someone says, do you know who I am? I'm like, should I ask around?
Have a cup of Joker.
Yeah, that is a brilliant ad, and I remember it well. Nikki says a favorite ad was the Nando's one with all the ministers in their cars and security motorcades at an intersection, all shouting and all silenced by a backfiring taxi. I remember that one. So I've got a couple. There was a wonderful one, and I don't know what the ad was for, but it shows a lot of kids playing cricket, and Lance Klusener is around. And I have a feeling it may have been Bakers because they sponsor cricket, or it might have been the kind of, maybe an energy drink or something, Oros, something like that. I'm sure somebody will fill me in. But they're picking teams, and a kid picks one, and he picks another kid, and then eventually he says, Lance, and then Lance Klusener steps forward with a bright look on his face, and then he says, no, other Lance. And then a kid called Lance comes forward, and Lance Klusener, who at that time was just off the charts as a one-day cricketer and a good test player too, is reduced to bringing the drinks, which makes me think it was an advert for drinks. So that was one, and then many of you know this, the King Price one, German guy somewhere in KZN meets a very large man of KZN and says he's in love with his daughter, and he says he's brought him 50 kettles, but he's got kettles. That's for King Price. Mispronunciation of kettles. So I enjoyed that as well. That made me laugh out loud. Favorite ads, send them to us please on 072 702 1702. It's 10 to 4.
John Perlman
on 702.
3 to 6 p.m.
Well, let's talk about why we are talking about this in the first place. When we somebody let us know that at the company Ornico, they're creating an ad library, we thought, wow, that sounds really interesting. We wanted to know more about it, and we thought this would be a perfect way of getting you all to just pick your... In fact, nobody's had to really dig too deep to come up with favorite ads. They've come in thick and fast. But Oresti Patricios is a brand thinker and CEO at Ornico. It's their idea, this ad library, and he joins us now to talk about what they're doing and why. Oresti, very good afternoon to you. Well, what exactly is the library for, and what prompted the idea? Welcome.
Hi, John. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, we've been monitoring ads since 1984. So we've got all specifically television commercials since year dot, since when commercial television started. So, and
Right.
It's a really cool history and nostalgia, but also talks about society and how society lived in the different eras in South Africa. And it's really an incredible library. But the reason why we put the ad library together is when brands want to, agencies want to actually understand what the competitors are ultimately doing, they can go into this brand library, have a look in the last 2-3 years what their competitors, let's say it's MTN, they can see what Vodacom and their competitors are ultimately doing, see what their messaging are, so that they can come up with either a strategy or a new creative concept, etc. And it makes it very easy for them to be able to pick up any of these ads across TV, radio, outdoor, print, mobile, no matter what it is.
Yeah, so it's an investment, I suppose, in the creative depth of and ongoing quality of South African advertising, which, by the way, has always been excellent and recognized as globally. So I'm going to ask you this now. It was going to be my last question, but I don't want to miss it, just in case we run out of time. Oresti, I mean, do you have a favorite ad?
I actually do.
Okay.
It's the BMW, which is the car that beats the Benz. I know it's a very old one, it's nostalgic, but I loved it because at the time they were pushing the envelope on competitive advertising. Mercedes-Benz had just done an ad that it went over Chapman's Peak, but actually the driver survived, and they said that strong car, and BMW came back very quickly and said, well, we don't want it because our car drives beautifully around the Benz. And I think it's and I love those kind of ads. I think that those competitive ads are really, 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 really cool. Yeah.
I mean, if we were to come and raid your library and pick 2-3 ads from every decade since 1990, what would it tell us about the way the country talks to itself, the way advertisers talk to us? Because it really has been a mirror of the journey South Africa has gone on, potholed as it's been at times, and difficult, exhilarating. It's been an extraordinary mix. What do you think your library might tell us about the part advertising has played, either in reflecting ourselves to ourselves or perhaps encouraging us to look at ourselves and others differently?
No, absolutely. I mean, it does, like I said, it does mirror society.
Yeah.
And each season, each year, or every decade, you can see the changes within society. But I think that the most interesting was specifically for young graduates, and actually having a look at ads prior to apartheid, and actually understanding the stupidity that you had to get approval before you can. You used not even the ads. You used to have to get approval on the script before you can actually flight an ad. I mean, it was kind of bizarre what was happening in those times, and you had an ad for black people and an ad for white people, and then you had called Black English or something like that. I can't remember which. I mean, it's bizarre when you start thinking about it. So it really has this mirror, and then you can start seeing how some of the brands were actually pushing the envelope and getting their ads banned because they needed to get that push that envelope out. And then you could see with the Nando's ads how freedom of expression and your freedom in terms of how you can mock government and how it changed, and you can see that in those ads, which is brilliant.
So obviously, as someone steeped in the industry, I mean, I have heard conversations, although I must admit I haven't always understood the ins and outs of them, that sometimes people have said, well, an ad can be memorable and clever, but it doesn't necessarily end up selling that brand of coffee. And that there's always going to be a debate, probably within creative teams, but beyond with clients and industry-wide. Is that an effective ad, or is it a very good ad? And I realize sometimes you hit the mark with both, but presumably they're not always identical.
No, I mean, there's so much around it. Okay, because I mean, you could be doing a great ad, but is it going to the correct demographics? Is it the right messaging? But even besides that, let's say we've done a lunch bar ad and we flight it, but actually the distribution or the production guys actually can't produce the goods.
Yes.
So working in silos, which we all do, it becomes problematic. How marketing departments work together with their operations teams, their distribution teams, becomes critical. But also understanding what are the messaging, who the right target market, do they understand that particular nuance that you're putting in? Will they understand the joke? Will it go above their heads, etc.? So, and it's really interesting and exciting within the South African context because of our, we're so diverse, and it really makes it so interesting. And that's why we can actually create the most incredible ads worldwide because of our diversity.
So one of the most powerful and important words, Oresti, in modern life is the word search. And I'm wondering how your catalog's going to work. Is it going to be chronological? Is it going to be thematic? Is it going to be by agency? I mean, people will want to go in, have a look, but how do they find what they want?
So, it depends on what they want. So now, let's say an agency is looking to pitch for a particular brand.
Right.
So what they would do, they could look at it in different ways. Number one, they would go in and look at categories. So they would look at the telecommunications industry,
right.
banking industry, or whatever, or they can look at and say, I'm looking at competitors, and they would look at the different brands of competitors. Or sometimes the creative teams will say, I'm trying to think of these guys running across with, in the distance, there's rainfall coming up and there's snowfall on another area, and try and find themes that have that kind of scene within it. But also they want to see that they're actually doing an ad that somebody hasn't done before. And so they can put, this is the theme I'm looking at, I don't want to repeat it. Or if I am going to repeat it, let's ensure that it's not in the same category as what has been there before.
Fascinating stuff, and thank you. You've got us remembering and talking and thinking. Oresti Patricios, brand thinker and CEO at Ornico. Now, Andy reminds us of this ad. He says, in Tate, John, it's Molo mhlobo wam. I'm absolutely not doing justice to that wonderful old man in, I think it was Eastern Cape Village. He's just had, I think, a Telkom phone installed. Before that, he was greeting his neighbor who lived on a hill in the distance. But just to carry on with ND, who says, one of the cell phone service providers, not sure which one, people greeted you from a distance, even if they are far and don't see you. The voice was recognized and everything. And just a small footnote to that, by the way, I distinctly remember former President Thabo Mbeki, but he was president at the time, and he was making a speech of great significance. I remember being there, and it could have been a sono or something, maybe a notch or two down, but significant nonetheless. And he began his speech by doing his understated version of Molo mhlobo wam. So it really reached into all sorts of corners unexpectedly, perhaps, when that advert came out. Favorite ads? Send us yours, 0727021702.
Running a business can feel like a solo mission. I mean, you've got the hustle. If only your office Wi-Fi was your employee of the month. Turn on your success with Telkom Business, the partner that always shows up. Get a reliable 25 by 25 megabytes per second connection with Stream Connect Fiber for only 489 rands per month.
This summer, your business deserves the best. Visit telkom.co.za/business for deals that connect your business. T's and C's apply. Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
Kick off to glory with Hollywood Bids and Aziz Shege. Be in the game. Go full speed ahead with the epic competition. You stand to win a share of 4 million rand in cash and prizes, including an all-new Toyota Corolla Cross. Bet 10 rand or more on any soccer fixture or fixtures online or at your nearest branch. Live life in the fast lane. Bet now for your chance to score.
T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
Every day I'm hustling. It's our reality as business owners. And it's good to know that there's someone out there who takes care of the business that makes the business. Gotta love My Way Business Insurance. Saving big on premiums with 24/7 emergency services, plus My Business Assist with marketing, legal, and labor advice services.
Visit myway.co.za or dial 0860 64 64 64 and get a quote today. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's, C's, and standard rates apply. My Way. Live your way.
Driving the conversation on 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Powered by Telkom Business. Possible begins here. This is EWN.
Midrand water crisis sees the deployment of water tankers, and Witness F shares information about sharing details with Kat Matlala. Good afternoon, I'm Mikey Malapo. Joburg Mayor Dada Morero says the Grand Central Reservoir in Midrand, which supplies areas including Glen Austin and parts of Waterfall, remains offline. The water disruptions were triggered by a leak at Rand Water's Klipfontein pump station and was worsened by a power outage at the Zekerbosch treatment plant last week. As a result, some residents in Midrand and Swane have been without water for at least 6 days. Frustrated residents in Midrand took to the streets in protest this morning. During a media briefing in Midrand this afternoon, Morero and Water Sanitation Deputy Minister David Mahlobo said water tankers are being deployed to support affected areas while the system is gradually restored. Dimakazo Leshoro has more.
The Grand Central Reservoir remains offline despite improvements in 4 of the 5 reservoirs supplying the area. Joburg Mayor Dada Morero says Grand Central failed to reach satisfactory operating levels and has now been isolated to prevent further strain on the fragile network. The reservoir was severely affected by a major rainwater leak, driving the system near collapse.
Grand Central, we're still working on it, monitoring it. It has not reached the percentage or the levels that we want it to reach.
Deputy Water and Sanitation Minister David Mahlobo has warned residents not to hoard water as recovery continues.
Immediately you start to hog it, then the system still remains vulnerable. You can actually take us 1 or 2 steps back.
The officials have warned that reopening Grand Central too soon could trigger new pipe bursts and undo maintenance progress. Dimakato Leshoro, Eyewitness News.
We move to the capital, where evidence presented before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry suggests that criminally accused tender tycoon Vusmusi Kat Matlala attempted to use his proximity to a Gauteng cop to get intel on a murder case. Evidence leader Matthew Chaskelson has been unpacking WhatsApp messages between Witness F, a member of the Gauteng organised crime, and Matlala. In one of the messages, Matlala sent a Mamelodi case number to Witness F. Witness F responded by sending Matlala a screen grab of SAPS's internal CAS system, which records details of cases. The witness claims Matlala told him the case related to an employee who was the victim of a domestic violence dispute. Chaskelson details what the case actually entailed.
This case, 15703 of 2024, involved the murder of Kabelo Richard Mate, who was murdered outside a four-room house in Mamelodi, Sector 1, and at a crime scene where 50 cartridges were found. There was no private complainant at all. The complainant was the constable to whom it was reported.
Chaskelson outlines what he believes the reasons were for Matlala querying the matter.
I put it to you that this looks very much like a case in which Mr. Matlala's query would have been made on behalf of a perpetrator, not on behalf of a victim.
In the courts, it's emerged that the alleged mastermind behind the Palapara burglary allegedly used his sister as a front to launder some of the money he stole from President Cyril Ramaphosa's farm. Emanuela David is charged alongside siblings Froliana and Ndilinasho Joseph with breaking and entering into the president's farm and stealing $580,000 in cash. Their trial is currently underway at the Modimolle Regional Court in Limpopo. Tabiso Goba is there.
As the state's case nears a close, more details are emerging over how accused number 1, Emanuela David, spent the US dollars he allegedly stole from President Cyril Ramaphosa's farm in 2020. A Rustenburg-based conveyancer testified as a state's witness today that she did the paperwork for a property bought by David's sister on the 18th of February 2020. The conveyancer says David's sister bought the house on Tlabane West for 750,000 rand cash and later sold it for 850,000 rand in December 2023. However, she says the proceeds of the sale were not paid out to the sister.
It was paid into Afrosa General Dealer Pty Limited's account. She signed the instruction to the attorney to confirm the banking details where the money should be paid to.
Out of the 3 accused, David is the only one facing a money laundering charge. Tabiso Koba, Eyewitness News, Limpopo.
DA leader John Steenhuisen says until he reveals a full set of facts, speculation about an imminent announcement he will make tomorrow should be avoided. Steenhuisen set tongues wagging earlier today when the party issued a notice that he would make an announcement of national importance and in the public interest in his hometown of Durban. But he's responded with a post on his social media account on X, downplaying reports that he's about to shelve ambitions to run for another term as party leader. Lindsay Dentlinger has more.
While nominations have not officially opened for the April Congress, John Steenhuisen has until now given no indications that he won't stand again, despite being embroiled in a recent public fallout with former party treasurer Dion George after removing him as minister last November. Just 10 days ago, Steenhuisen told parliamentary journalists he was putting that debacle behind him.
I'm just getting on with the job of leading the party and talking to voters. That's my focus, and dealing with problems and issues that are the voters' concern.
While sources have told EWN Steenhuisen has since had a rethink about extending his leadership, he has responded to reports by posting a cryptic picture on his X account. It portrays former US President Harry Truman holding up a 1948 edition of the Chicago Daily Tribune with the infamous erroneous headline, "Dewey defeats Truman," when the paper incorrectly predicted the outcome of that presidential election. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News.
And Iran's president has confirmed that he has ordered the start of talks with the United States, provided they were free of threats, after his counterpart Donald Trump suggested bad things would happen without a deal. There's been no official confirmation from Iran on where the talks would be held, but according to AFP, a meeting was likely to take place in Turkey on Friday following diplomatic interventions by surrounding countries. The US leader has spoken of potential military action and sent an aircraft carrier group to the Middle East following anti-government protests in Iran that were met with a deadly crackdown last month. Trump has maintained he's hopeful that Washington will work something out with Tehran, but also warned that bad things would happen if a deal was not reached. Gold's trading at $4,924.99 an ounce. The rand's at 15.97 to the dollar, at 21.83 to the pound, at 18.83 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $66.60 a barrel.
And in your traffic, two major incidents on the November 1 North between Buccleuch Interchange and New Road. A broken down vehicle near the Allendale Road and an accident near New Road as well. So you can expect more than a 30-minute hold up there.
In your sport, World Rugby defend World Cup opening match after fixtures are released. Arsenal and Chelsea fight for a Carabao Cup final spot. And Tiger Woods says a return to competitive golf is a long way off.
I look at your weather. It's set to be a partly cloudy Tuesday in Gauteng with isolated showers and thunder showers expected tomorrow. At Joburg will drop to overnight lows of 16 degrees and peak at highs of 31. Pretoria is at 17 and 32. Vereeniging will drop to overnight lows of 17 degrees and reach highs of 31 degrees tomorrow. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. Joburg Mayor Dada Morero says the Grand Central Reservoir in Midrand, which supplies areas including Glen Austin and parts of Waterfall, remains offline.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
7:02.
Drive home with John Perlman.
John Perlman, 3 to 6 p.m.
on 92.7 and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
9 minutes past 4 on 702 Drive. Good to have you with us on the show. As you heard a moment ago from Maki Mulapo, some improvements, government says at least. The city and also the Deputy Minister of Water and Sanitation, David Mahlobo, offering assurances. They say that the worst of the water crisis out in Midrand, she mentioned there Glen Austin, Waterfall, Ivory Park, Tembisa's been hit as well, and there are neighborhoods, I'm sure, that have been affected as well, and you'll be quick to mention them to me if you like. But why did these things happen? Because the first thing that occurs to me is this has happened, and I can't help feeling who's next, because the city of Johannesburg, Joburg Water, is really in some ways an accident waiting to happen. Given the aging of the infrastructure, on the one hand, yes, one acknowledges that, but on the other, work that should have been done that hasn't been done over many, many years now is now coming home to roost. Mixed metaphor, I know, but I think you know what I mean. Anyway, we will talk to Gugulethu Quma, who is Operations Manager for Electromechanical at Johannesburg Water. That's coming up in just a moment. The Madlanga Commission, there's been some quite extraordinary evidence emerging today after a rather gnarled and knotty opening where there was continued dispute about on what terms witness F would testify. Testimony has gone underway, and in terms of revelation, it has been worth waiting for in the sense that it has revealed some quite shocking things at the level of allegation. I think it should be said, a mix of allegation and presentation of facts, I think is a better description. But anyway, Oren Singh will unpick it for us and then put it all back together and make some sense for us. We've been talking about South African adverts. We were prompted by a conversation we had earlier with our guest, Oresti Patricios, who at the company Ornico has been putting together a library, comprehensive and extensive, of South African adverts. It's there to assist people with their planning and their strategies around advertising, but it's also given us an opportunity for you to reminisce about ads that have been special in your life. After 5, we'll look back on the wonderful memory from this day in 1996, South Africa 2, Tunisia 0. My memory when I think of that first ever and only to date AFCON triumph is to the semi-final, South Africa 3, Ghana 0. That was exceptional football, but the final was memorable. Mark Fish was there right in the heart of things, and he's our guest at about 5:20.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
You got an uncle in the furniture business, Joshua Dog. That's Mulefa from Rotherport.
Afternoon, Uncle John. Yeah. So the one advert that I do specifically remember is the one where the roles had been reversed. You had black people living in the suburbs and being what would typically be a white neighborhood, and then you had the white people being portrayed as how black people actually live today. So that was quite memorable for me, and I actually don't know why that advert was taken down. But hey.
Hey John, there was a Nando's ad back in the day. So what happened is this, it used to go how to climb the corporate ladder, and they had these tips on how to climb the corporate ladder. One of them is this guy works at a firm, and the advice is always agree with your boss. And the boss is making tea, and then he spills a bit, and then under his breath he says, "Ah, stupid." And then the guy jumps up and he says, "Yeah, you're stupid, a complete fool, man. Yeah." That was so funny. Hector in Midrand.
Hi, John and Radio 702 listeners. One of my favorite adverts was many years ago. It was a Sasol advert with a baby in a pram. I think it was a Sasol advert at least, and it the pram went very fast and went gluk gluk. It was really, really good. We loved it. Thanks for the show.
Yeah, fantastic memories of adverts. That advert, by the way, that was described in some detail, white people living in an area that looked like a township, anyone, I think, would have fit the bill, and black people as tourists in the bus looking at them. My recollection of that is that there was an SABC 1 campaign ad, and it stirred controversy, and eventually it was pulled. If you've got a more precise memory of that, please do give us a call. And we started off with Joshua Dore, which reminded me of one of my favorite kind of silly jokes. What do you say to somebody who has somehow managed to kick a hole through the window of a furniture shop? You've got an ankle in the furniture business. It's 4:15.
EWN Traffic.
Kabazela, take us home.
Yeah, John, it's starting to heat up. I must say it's getting busy around 702 land and a few incidents to report on. But we'll start with 2 major incidents on the November 1 North between the Buccleuch Interchange and New Road. There's a broken down vehicle near Allendale Road and an accident near New Road. So you can expect some delays there. So be careful of that one. Try and avoid it as much as you can. Traffic is backed up on the Mike 1, both directions between Corlett Drive and Grayston Drive due to roadworks and peak time traffic delays. While on the Mike 1 South towards the Joburg CBD, there are delays from Empire Road to the Crown Interchange. Heading towards Bedford View, there's been an accident on the R24 West at the N12 merge, casing more than around about a 20-minute delay. And in Tembisa, there are roadworks on the R21 north towards Olifantsfontein Road, causing heavy delays. In Auckland Park, a collision on Kingsway Road near University, slowing down traffic there. And then we head a little bit more east. In Lindrow Park, expect a bit of a hold-up along the N3 South between Marlborough Drive and Vincent Chabalala Road. Tshwani's looking all clear for now, looking pretty good. If we've missed anything there, please do let us know on 072 702 1702. Send us a voice note. Let us know if there's anything new, any updates on these traffic reports, and we'll get them to you as soon as we can. EWN Kabazela.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app. Stay with 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive. Let's focus our attention now on that situation out in Midrand. Many of you have been sharing with us the absolutely awful time that you've been going through. There's other journalists have been covering it as well. The publication Ground Up, for example, quotes somebody who says, "It's terrible. I've got elderly parents. They're both in their late 80s. How do I clean them? How do I wash them?" It's been bad out there. Let's try and find out a little bit more and try and better understand what actually happened. Guguletu Kuma is manager for electromechanical at Johannesburg Water. Mr. Kuma, welcome and thanks very much for giving us your time. Problems began out at the Zakebosch water treatment plant, an explosion of a motor connected to a pump. There was a leak discovered at the Klipfontein Reservoir, as I understand it, and this precipitated the problems that the people have had to endure. My first question to you would be this. If there was to be some kind of inquiry and the maintenance records at Zakebosch were examined, what would that reveal?
Thank you so much, and good afternoon to you, and good afternoon to the listeners. I would like first maybe to acknowledge that the value chain of water will need to be perhaps not necessarily segregated, but understand the role players. There is a bulk supplier who owns the Zakebosch treatment plant, which in this case is Midrand Water, and then Johannesburg Water on distribution.
Okay, so you're saying that wouldn't have been your direct responsibility. Let me ask the question more broadly then. Quite often we get things not happening because at plants, reservoirs and so on, something breaks. If we were to just focus on what Joburg Water's responsibilities are, to what extent do you have adequate capacity to maintain and look after what you have, be that by way of personnel or budget?
Yes. First, you've maybe touched on the painful part, which is the past week and a half, perhaps let's say 2 weeks, starting from the 21st of January until to date. We have been having challenges, disruption, and especially the Midrand side and the Sentin have been affected severely, and now with a double jeopardy on the side of Midrand, which is now continue to be affected while we are restoring the other areas. But if we're looking at the infrastructure that you have referred to, aging infrastructure, the backlog, it should have been there, it's not yet there. The maintenance records, if perhaps we have an inquiry, those information, including our bulk supply, will be able to provide the information, because it would be the information that will be associated to the particular inquiry. But nevertheless, the information is out in the public. We do share it. We will share every year the annual plan, which is our ambition of what we would like to implement. Perhaps we will also then do a annual report after the year has ended to indicate what has been done.
But Mr. Kuma, if I can return to my question, I mean, all infrastructure ages, and some of it ages to the point where it has to be replaced. But some of it is the result of accelerated aging because inadequate maintenance has been done. Now, part of the reason would be that there are not enough people and there's not enough money. Part of it may be that the people doing the maintenance are not sufficiently competent. If Joburg Water were to stare into a mirror and honestly give us your assessment of that scenario, How would you describe it? Do you have enough people, enough money, and are the people who are tasked with maintenance up to the job?
If we start with the budget side, definitely there isn't adequate budget to deal with the actual maintenance that is operation driven and the maintenance that we actually refer to it as a capital investment, which is the backlogs that we're referring to. There isn't adequate budget there. In fact, there has been a funding for so many years led us to such an extent that now we're remaining with the infrastructure that has most of the infrastructure has passed its useful life, or let's rather not say most, but a portion of the infrastructure of Johannesburg Water has passed its useful life. Now, if we were to be fair and say, can you continue to maintain an infrastructure that has passed its useful life, need to be upgraded or renewed or expanded? It gets tricky because now you are running that infrastructure while waiting for the renewal or the upgrade so that you can continue to put in the suitable maintenance program.
So if I can jump in there and ask you that, because my understanding is your role is on electromechanical, which would be pumps. If I were to ask you in the Joburg water system, what percentage of your pumps can still be fixed and what percentage need to be replaced?
It's difficult to quantify, but I can give you the size of the holistic reservoir network that we are looking at, which is around 130 if we are looking at our reservoirs and towers, and we've got a complement of about 38 pump stations that are driving those pumps to ensure that the water reach the higher lying areas and those towers that we are referring to, including the booster ones. So as far as the backlog is concerned, if we were now to go and review our saying the actual business plan, it would reflect the indicating which infrastructure have 0 to 2 years remaining useful life.
And what percentage is that? I mean, because what we need to do, I think, is let the city of Johannesburg and its residents know where it's likely to break again.
We rather look at it this way. The actual backlog is sitting at 30 billion rand, and that amount actually compound every financial year. Let's say the entity Johannesburg Water requires about 3 billion rands per annum to be able to deal with the capital investment.
If I could jump in there, though, Mr. Kuma, I appreciate your point about how much money is needed, but that for residents would be an abstraction. Wouldn't a more useful way of communicating with residents be to identify those areas where the stuff is about to break and cannot be fixed, and then alert residents served by those particular electromechanical pumps and the broader system, and put people on alert, and then start planning ahead with the water tankers and other forms of relief? The number 30 billion, I think, will go clean over people's heads and won't mean much as they're struggling to wash themselves.
Yes, but how I was trying to interpret is rather to look at where the system or where the infrastructure is at this stage and what is required to bring the infrastructure to where it should have been, which is actually not practical. But it gives you a context to say, rather than looking at the percentage, because the infrastructure is aged differently. So there will be infrastructure.
But with respect, Mr. Kuma, that's exactly my point. And surely the city, Joburg Water, is in a position to do a map of what is aging at what point, what is unfixable, what's likely to break next, and what the plans are. Wouldn't that be, and I accept that communication is not your role, but surely the insights that you would be able to generate in the role that you do play would be crucial. I mean, surely the city of Johannesburg needs to say to Joburg, brace yourselves, this is what's coming, this is where it's going to break next.
Definitely. However, even the infrastructure that has passed its useful life is still in service and is still utilized. we've got 43 reservoirs that were identified that
Yes.
needs to be rehabilitated. I'm giving you the actual number out of that 130 that we were talking about. Those reservoirs has been now identified. Funding has been a point that now needs to be finalized and put them in the rehabilitation program to ensure that they are now upgraded and bring them back into service so that we can be able to utilize those reservoirs for the foreseeable future. So those information get published and those information get communicated throughout the Johannesburg Water and also through the stakeholder engagement. So we do provide the information.
But would it not be useful because this seems inevitable and it seems at this moment in time incapable of any kind of quick fix? Wouldn't it be worthwhile to put South African Joburg neighborhoods into red zones, orange zones, and green zones? I mean, I'm not saying you should do it that way, but I'm just being illustrative and say, look, if you live in the area of Houghton, Killarney, I'm just using that by way of illustration, and Norwood, the likelihood is, based on our understanding and insight into the state of our infrastructure, you are likely to suffer a serious water outage within the next 6 months. Wouldn't that just make it easier for everyone? And then you could plan the deployment of water tankers, for example, which appears to have been inadequate in Midrand's case.
Yes, we can be able to articulate where the infrastructure, like as you have indicated, the older suburb, definitely the infrastructure is old and is prone to these frequent bursts, and also that amounts to non-revenue water, which is something that the entity is working on to have, because we have now as an entity established a rapid response team, which will come and isolate the water, which is, I understand it becomes a disruption, but those are the practical interventions when you're looking at the operational perspective. What can we do to prevent the wastage of water? But it comes at the inconvenience of disruption while we are planning to either replace a portion of the line, because now it cannot be repaired anymore. It needs to be replaced depending on the size. So definitely those kind of, I will say, reactive maintenance, they become unpredictable, and the infrastructure will at now and then dictate that you replace this section, and we have to do it, and sometimes it comes at a big inconvenience.
Gugulethu Quma is Operations Manager for Electromechanical at Johannesburg Water. I mean, I just, that's my idea. They know, it would seem, exactly what is about to break. And I think, the sooner they let everybody know that, this is your life. You are in the red zone, and then we know exactly what to expect. I wonder which area is going to go through the Midrand experience next, but it does sound, from what everyone's saying, that it's inevitable. Somebody else, some other community is going to go through this. And it's not just Midrand, by the way. It's Ivory Park. Tembisa has been hit in other areas besides. 28 minutes past 4.
EWN Business.
Stephen Curtis, a very good afternoon to you. The market's much happier today.
John, yes, good afternoon. Do you remember I went through a phase of new record this, new record that?
Yes.
I think I'm going through a new phase, and we're just going to call it Stephen's volatile phase.
Yes, okay.
Which is not so much a reference to me, but just the market volatility. So, for example, gold is probably going to go basically get its biggest daily rise since 2008 or so today. And that shows you how strong this bounce has been. So yesterday, falling to $4,600 after being $5,500 at the end of last week, now at around $4,900. That helping the JSE Silver bouncing back strongly too. The JSE All Share up 1.32%, 120,478. Financials are up 0.08. Industrials are down 0.88. Do you remember yesterday resources were down 5.5%. Today they're up 4.75%. Alpha Min leading the charge, up 8.5%. Anglo Gold up 6.6%. Implats up 6.3%. Other gold miners doing very nicely. Volterra doing nicely as well. Implats up 6.3% today. They did say they expect their headline earnings to be up by around 400% in 6 months to the end of December. Do I need to tell you why? I think you already know. Higher platinum prices as well. We Buy Cars down 6.37, Sasol down 2.5%, and Prosus down 2.44%. Telkom also down 2.4% on the day. The paper and packaging group Impact, they have a big mill in Springs, John. They say they're probably going to have to shut it down. That'll be 377 jobs that'll go too. It's interesting. They make what's called white-lined cardboard. I don't know if you had cornflakes for breakfast. Maybe more of a brand kind of guy.
Yeah.
But basically, what your cereal came in is the kind of material that they make. They say there's oversupply in global markets. The rand is also stronger, which means that it is cheaper to import the stuff, and that's causing problems for them. And then also today from the supergroup, they expect their headline earnings from continuing operations in the year to the end of December to be up by around 25%. They have had problems in the UK, though. The UK is a difficult market at the moment, John. There was that big cyber hack of Jaguar Land Rover, and that brought that company's plants around the world to a standstill, and that affected Supergroup. In the US, it does look like things are tracking higher, both the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ, partly because of that recovery in gold prices and platinum and silver prices too. Talking of which, gold, $4,923.06 an ounce. Platinum, $2,242.20. Brent crude, $66.70. The rand to the dollar, back below 15.99 at the moment. To the euro, 18.84. To the British pound, 21.84. Stephen, volatility, EWN Business.
I think to make the point, you need to change your name all the time. Take it up, take it down.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
What about Stephen Downer?
Yeah, there we go. Stephen, thank you. And Marky Molapo, Stephen back, by the way, with us in about 55 minutes. Marky Molapo right now with the very latest eyewitness news, starting with that rather bleak picture of the road accident fund. They're down in Parliament. What are they saying? Good afternoon.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. The board of the Road Accident Fund has painted a picture of a largely dysfunctional organization that can't sustain itself and where the staff have been operating in a climate of fear. Interim board chairperson Kenneth Brown has today told Parliament's Standing Committee on Public Accounts that the fund's paper-based claims system is outdated and, in the case of death, inhumane. The board, whose 6-month term ends in just 5 days, is testifying at an inquiry into maladministration at the fund. Lindsay Dentlinger has more.
Board chairperson Kenneth Brown has not minced his words, telling Parliament there's still a long way to go to fix a broken system.
The magnitude of the work is massive. It's a massive task. I will not lie to you. So the task ahead is going to be tough.
Brown says the finances of the organisation remain precarious. The fund needed to make payouts of around 20 billion rand in December, with less than 5 billion rand in the bank.
What broke the camel's back was when the Road Accident Fund lost the case on the moratorium, the 180-day moratorium.
Brown says the board's intervention has also revealed around 300 staff who had previously been unfairly suspended have not been assigned any jobs upon their return, while there are around 400 more staff who have been contracted in. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
Staying in Parliament, the evidence of a former State Security Agency official was delayed today because he didn't have the relevant permission from the Director General to testify. Xolile Mashukuca, the former chairperson of the State Security Agency, was set to make a public submission today, but evidence leaders raised issues on whether he's certified to submit what could possibly be classified information. The public hearings continued for a second week today, with 4 more submissions expected today. Babala Ndenza reports.
The Parliament Ad Hoc Committee is continuing with its public submissions this week as it enters the business end of its proceedings. But the first public submission today from Xolile Mashukuca, a former SSA official, had to be postponed while he gets the relevant authority to address the committee. Evidence leader, Advocate Norman Aronser.
There is an issue that I've raised with you which relates to whether or not he had sought the consent of the Director General of SSA to give evidence before us.
Mashukuca says he was not aware he needed permission and doesn't see a problem with his evidence because he's no longer employed by state security.
Because I'm no longer a member of that organization and I'm not aware of any provision of such nature because I also operate in other capacities since I left that organization.
The committee continued with its public hearings, with whistleblower Patricia Mashale giving evidence about police corruption. Babalo Ndenze, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
And the Heart and Stroke Foundation has kicked off its Heart to Heart campaign this month. The annual initiative, centered around Valentine's Day this year, is raising awareness and funds for heart and brain health. CEO Pamela Naidu says South Africans need to be more aware of lowering their disease profiles.
It is so important in this month of love, which we are using to promote heart health in particular, to really be aware of the importance of living a very, very healthy lifestyle, adopting healthy behaviors.
Naidu says the public can visit their website, heartfoundation.co.za, for more information.
Going on our website to check on what the pillars are for having healthy health outcomes in your teens, in your adulthood, and across the lifespan.
A look at your weather. Partly cloudy skies in store for Gauteng, with isolated showers and thunder showers expected tomorrow. Temperatures will drop to overnight lows of 16 and 17 degrees, and peak at highs between 31 and 32 degrees.
And in your traffic, travelling towards Bryanston, there's queuing traffic on the November 1 South between the Beclue Interchange and Winnie Mandela Drive. And in Lindrow Park, expect a bit of a hold-up along the N3 South between Marlborough Drive and Vincent Chabalala Road.
The top story in Eyewitness News. The board of the Road Accident Fund has painted a picture of a largely dysfunctional organization that can't sustain itself and where the staff have been operating in a climate of fear.
The Midday Report.
Weekdays,
12 to 1.
It's Stephen from Durban. I don't think this was voluntary. I think John Steenhuisen has basically been told to step down. That's my personal opinion, because obviously there's been a lot of going on with him and infighting within the party. So maybe it's that.
Yeah, I think that's a perfectly reasonable view. Just to remind you, of course, John Steenhuisen's tweet says at 10 a.m. I'll make an announcement of national importance. Until you see me outlining the full set of facts, avoid speculation.
The Midday Report
with Mandy Wiener.
12 to 1 on 702.
702.
Stop and think. Will you survive the AI revolution or thrive? Regenesis students are thriving. 11 cutting-edge schools, 111 countries, world-class team of 1,111 with one mission, awakening your potential. Choose from law, business, technology, AI, health, economics, entrepreneurship, public management, skills academy, and digital Regenesis. Undergraduate, postgraduate, upskilling, customized corporate programs. The question isn't, can you afford to enroll? It's, can you afford not to? Enroll now. Regenesis.net. Achieve your dreams.
Let's hear from Susan, owner of Leopard Song Manor, why it pays to switch to Outsurance Business Insurance.
We were with our previous insurer for 13 years. Switching made me aware of things that we weren't covered for. It was a quick process. I saved a lot of money.
For boutique hotels, catering companies, and all other businesses, get a quote today and see why it pays to switch to Outsurance Business Insurance. Visit outsurance.co.za or call 0600 60,000 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online. 702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Hey John, Karabo here. Not you suggesting and coming up with ideas in terms of communication, zoning, and classification of areas for Joburg or the city of Joburg to notify its residents. And you then wonder, what are the people in these offices doing? Like, what are they doing? What ideas are they coming up with? If you, as a presenter on a radio station, member of the public, coming up with the ideas that almost sound as if it's news to them, like they've never thought of it. What are these guys doing?
John, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. The issue of the budget is a non-starter for me. You know, these guys are looting the funds left, right, and center, and then after that, they then come with the excuse that the budget is insufficient. Yeah, you cannot. If you are earning 2,000 rand, and then you get somebody who is your whatever friend who supplies you bread in your house, and they sell you that bread at 5,000 rand and hope that you'll ever buy bread in the house. You won't, because you're just getting your friend to supply that bread, which is over and above what your salary is. They must stop this looting and use the funds appropriately.
Thank you. Lots of response there to our interview with Joburg Water, his title, Manager for Electromechanical at Johannesburg Water, Gugulethu Quma, giving us his perspective on what's happening out in Midrand. We understand the system is stabilizing. If you live out there, let us know. Is it? 011 883 0702 072 702 1702. It's 19 minutes now to 5.
EWN Sport.
Tolakele, very good afternoon to you. Rugby, motor racing, but starting off with football. What's happening?
While John Liam Rossini is confident in Chelsea's ability to overturn a 3-2 deficit that's in their Carabao Cup semi-final away to Arsenal, the Blues come into the second leg on the back of a dramatic Premier League win over West Ham and have recorded 5 wins from Rossini's first 6 matches in charge.
I look at maybe Enzo Fernandez has won a World Cup as well as the group winning two trophies last year. They can play in big games. They can perform in big games. It's definitely a big game on Tuesday. I won't speak about what Arsenal or Mikel Arteta have or haven't done. That's not my concern. My concern is resting. It's another 3-game week. We need to recover. It's going to be a really physical game on Tuesday and preparing the team as best I can for that game.
Tristan Stubbs has signed for Hampshire Hawks for the 2026 T20 Blast for what will be his maiden appearance in the competition. Stubbs has previous franchise experience in the IPL Caribbean Premier League and the SA20. He's also joined Southern Brave as a signing for the 2026 edition of the 100. At the same time, Sri Lanka have dropped Test captain Dhanarjana De Silva from their 15-man T20 World Cup squad. That one will be led by Dusan Shanaka. De Silva was recalled for a 3-match T20 series against Pakistan last month after an 18-month absence, but he only managed to score 43 runs in his 3 innings and took 1 wicket. Switching over to the Six Nations, where England captain Maro Itoje will be on the bench for their opener at home to Wales on Saturday, having missed most of their pre-tournament training to attend his mother's funeral in Nigeria. Former skipper Jamie George will now lead out Steve Borthwick's side, who are looking to make it 12 wins in a row.
This team really wants to have a connection with the supporters. It really wants to have a positive impact upon people. Best way to do that, going and playing super well out there on that pitch. But there's also lots of other ways to do that as well. Blend of people we have in this squad. We have great characters, good people. They want to have that positive impact. I want these players to be superstars and brilliant team men.
And in Formula One, Mercedes driver George Russell says his hope for the 2026 season is to find himself in a title fight with Red Bull's Max Verstappen. Russell has won 5 races for Mercedes since joining in 2022, but has not had a car consistently fast enough to challenge for a driver's championship. Coming into the new campaign, F1 has made the biggest regulation change in its history, with all new cars, engines, tyres and fuel.
I'd love for it to turn out that way, and I do want to go head-to-head with Max, and obviously Lando had a great season last year. It's great. You obviously wish that you'd have a slightly easier time of it, but it should never be easy. And if you're going to win, you want to have fought for it and won it fair and square on track.
Tolagile Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
16 minutes to 5. EWN Traffic is brought to you by Outsurance. SMS out to 45142 now. And you could save on car insurance. If you don't, ask them for 500 Rand. The M1, whether you're going one way or the other, is pretty jammed up. Jonathan Fairbairn has the details.
Yeah, indeed, John. Traffic is backed up on the Mike 1 in both directions between Corlett Drive and Grayston due to roadworks and peak time delays. While on the Mike 1 south towards the Joburg CBD, there are delays from Empire Road to the Crown Interchange. Looking on the N1 North between Buccleuch Interchange and New Road, a car is stuck on the side of the road there near Allendale Road, and there is an accident near New Road, so that's holding up traffic pretty badly over there. Looking in Alberton, be on the lookout for some delays on the N12 West between Voortrekker Road and the Reading Interchange. And then if we move across to 20 is looking pretty okay at the moment. If you've seen anything, please let us know. But we do have some traffic lights out of order there, and those are manned by some pointsmen. In Centurion at the R101 and Brakfontein Road in Louwlaardia, in Derdepoort at Sefako Makgato and the November 1 1 and in Centurion at John Foster Drive and Lynchon Avenue. If you see anything else, please do let me know on 072 702 1702. Kabazela EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
The Outsurance pointsmen know that every car on the road carries a story. Like a man wearing his finest suit on his way to an interview. He's prepped 100 times, but he still has butterflies. The Outsurance pointsmen know it's not just a car in traffic. It's a potential lucky break that could change someone's life. Every story's different, and every story matters. That's why the Outsurance pointsmen have been doing what they do since 2005, in proud partnership with 702. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP.
You're with John Perlman
on 702.
Still to come on 702 Drive in a moment. Another round of the brain of 702. And you all keep pouring in the ads with special memories. Keep those coming on 072 702 1702. Tumelo reminds us of that exchange. Frikkie says, nog enetjie. Eddie says, eish. And Frikkie says, met ys, ja. Met ys. That was Klipdrift. We're back in a moment.
You're now listening to 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
Bongani Bingwa, 702 Breakfast.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9.
Professions you won't date. Medical forensic pathologist. You know, one who does postmortems because of... Now, I would persistently think, where have those hands been during the day? And number two is, what on earth scares you?
Mutewa? I was open to anything, but then I found out that people don't want to date journalists for various reasons.
Amo?
The police, military.
What's wrong with law enforcement? The police.
No. It's the risk of what can happen to you, right?
What about the police?
Bongani Bingwa, 6 to 9.
On 702.
Get your brain in the game, because the brain of 702 is back with your chance to flex your general knowledge smarts. There's 3,000 Rand up for grabs every day, and Brain of the Week wins 10,000 Rand, plus a spot in the finals to compete for the grand prize, 30,000 Rand cash. Enter on primemediaplus.com now, then catch 702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa and 702 Drive with me, John Perlman, for your chance to be the brain of 702. TCs and more on primemediaplus.com.
Do you suffer from heartburn and hyperacidity? To relieve heartburn for the whole day and night with one tablet, a potent once-a-day treatment which was previously prescription only is now available over the counter. Ask your pharmacist for an over-the-counter, long-lasting heartburn treatment. Brought to you by Sandoz.
The festive rush doesn't wait. Orders, deliveries, messages, calls. This summer, you'll need connectivity that doesn't tap out when the pressure is on. With Telkom Business, you get reliable, high-speed connectivity for just $2.99 per month. That's our unlimited LTE, all hours basic plan, 10 megabytes per second. No caps, no excuses.
This summer, your business deserves the best. Visit telkom.co.za/business for deals that grow your business. T's and C's apply. Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
South Africa's musical theatre classic Marabi returns on the stage of the Market Theatre with an exceptional cast. Launching the theatre's 50th anniversary year, this much-loved play with live music is directed by original cast member Arthur Molepo. Set in the tough Doornfontein yards of the 1930s, Marabi follows a family chasing hope in Johannesburg, bound by love, loss, and unforgettable music. Marabi runs from the 29th of January to the 15th of February. Visit markettheatre.co.za for tickets.
When the brightest brains collide in the biggest general knowledge quiz in Gauteng, it's time for the brain of 702.
Yes, indeed, it's time to put your brilliance on display in the brain of 702. Prove your mental might for your chance to win a share of 130,000 Rand in cash. And of course, there's the highly coveted title of the brain of 702. You could win 1,500 Rand in this round and another 1,500 if you win tomorrow on Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa. The brain of 702. Your brain, our stage. So, are you ready to step into the spotlight? The winner of this round, as I said, gets 1,500 Rand and will be crowned the brain of the day and go on to play again tomorrow and who knows, possibly through the rest of the week. And then on Friday afternoon, that person and one other stand to win 10,000 Rand as the weekly brain of 702. Ultimately, you could go on to win a further 30,000 Rand should you be declared the brain of 702. To be a part of the action, register on primemediaplus.com and we could call to put you through our qualifier. Let's meet our two contestants then. She's been playing since Monday morning, still going. Ashley Laurent on the line from Rivonia. Good afternoon and good luck to you.
Good afternoon, John. Thanks very much.
You are up against, playing for the first time today, Sudeshan Reddy on the line to us from Pretoria. Sudeshan, welcome and very good luck to you as well.
Thank you, John.
Right, let me remind you both of the rules. You have 60 seconds to answer 15 questions. The contestant who gets the most answers correct is the winner. If scores are equal, we'll play sudden death. Just remember, I may ask you to spell a word. Passing is not an option because if you say pass, I will spell the word so you won't save any time. Rather see if you can pick up a point. So there we go. We are all set to go. And Ashley Laurent, your time starts now.
3, 2, 1.
True or false, there are 90 degrees in an obtuse angle?
False.
Correct. Spell the word officer.
OSSICER.
Correct. Complete the saying, you fly by the seat of your what?
Pants.
Correct. In what month are the winners of Nobel Prizes announced?
December.
October. What is the name of South Africa's national flower?
Protea.
Correct. What beginning with T is a ballerina's short dress?
Tutu.
Correct. Which Springbok was named World Rugby Player of the Year in 2025?
Peter Steptoe.
Malcolm Marx. Which waterway did President Trump want to make part of the USA in 2025?
The Panama Canal.
Correct. How many I's are there in the word auxiliary?
1.
2. True or false? Black rhinos usually live on leaves.
False.
True. Which country? Okay. Black rhinos eat leaves. White rhinos are the grazers. So, Ashley, one short of what you achieved this morning. 7 with Bongani. You picked up 6 today. So, it's now time to find out whether that will be enough or whether Sudeshan Reddy can move past you. So, Sudeshan, your time starts now.
3, 2, 1.
True or false, there are 180 degrees in a circle?
True.
False. Spell the word radiant.
RADIANT.
Correct. Complete the saying, birds of a what flock together?
Flock. Feather.
Correct. In what month do Nobel laureates receive their prizes?
December.
Correct. What is the name of South Africa's national fish?
Pass.
Khalyun, what beginning with L is a gymnast's tight garment?
Leotard.
Correct. Which Springbok was named World Rugby Player of the Year twice?
Sia Kolisi.
Peter Steptoe. Which large island does President Trump want to make part of the USA?
Greenland.
Correct. How many E's are there in the word estranged?
2.
Correct. True or false? White rhinos usually live on grass.
False.
True. Which country elected Paul Biya as president? Uganda
Cameroon.
or Correct. What is the official name of the Pope that was elected in...
Leo.
Didn't get a chance to ask you that last question. Leo would have been correct. Pope Leo the 14th to be precise. But you know what, Sudeshan Reddy, it doesn't really matter because you got 7 and that makes you the winner. Congratulations, Sudeshan. You are our reigning brain and the brain of the day. You've won 1,500 Rand. Thanks to 702. You will play again with Bongani Bingwa tomorrow. And if you're still standing after that round, you will be the brain of the day and continue the battle for brilliance. Now, what about you? For a chance to prove your mental might and to win your share of 130,000 Rand, visit primemediaplus.com to register. And you could become the brain of 702 and walk away with the ultimate general knowledge quiz. Well done, Sudeshan, and commiserations, but congratulations to Ashley, who's done well throughout the week. It's 5 to 5.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Now, let's focus our attention on the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. It's been quite a complicated day. Not only has the witness who is testified from who was not present and known only as Witness F, there was quite a bit of back and forth at the beginning of the day about the terms under which he would testify. But my goodness, Oren Singh, once things got underway, there was some very important information emerging out of a whole chain of WhatsApps. What for you stood out the most? The bit when I was listening very much was about back and forth involving a relationship between suspended Deputy National Commissioner Shadrack Sabia and Vusumuzi Katmatlala. But over to you. What do you think we most need to know about and think about?
I think, John, the main thing coming out of today, bearing in mind that Witness F is a member of organized crime in Gauteng, and his direct superior is that of the suspended Deputy National Police Commissioner Shadrack Sabia. But towards the tail end of today's proceedings, they wrapped up just after 4 p.m., it emerged that Witness F was raised by the late former Pretoria taxi boss, a very feared man, and a man that was claimed or is alleged to be the president of the Big Five cartel, Jotan Mswazi Msibi. He claims he was raised by Msibi, that he was taken through primary school and into high school and lived with Msibi, and he looked up to him as a father, and vice versa. Msibi looked down to him as a son. And I think that just goes to show the questionable sort of relationships that this cop, essentially in Gauteng, had, because Msibi is as the man at the top of this Big Five cartel that's alleged to be the president. But he's also accused of having facilitated these messages between Shadrack Sabia and criminally accused tender don Vusumuzi Katmatlala. He's seen to be the middleman, passing messages to and from each one of them and facilitating meetings, essentially. But another name that dropped in the hat that's not been heard for the first time in the commission is that of a Bedford View private security owner, Stephen Motsumi. His name coming up again today in WhatsApp messages that the commission put forward as evidence, in that Witness F was facilitating meetings between Motsumi and Shadrack Sabia. And Motsumi himself has not spoken out about this as of yet. I suspect that he would be subpoenaed at some stage to come to the commission to give his side of the story. But there's definitely questionable links between Witness F and some dodgy characters that the commission has sort of put forward today in their proceedings.
Oren, I mean, I think you highlighted it in one of your crossings with Maki Mulapo earlier, but I've been struck by the number of times it was a feature of now suspended Hawks Head General Lisicha Sinona, but the number of occasions in which people testifying to the commission, senior police operatives or officers, are extracting from the police's system material and sharing it with people who stand accused of significant criminal acts. And in every instance, sharing names and personal details of police officers. I mean, this must be sending shockwaves through the police, unless they may well turn around and say, well, we know this is happening. That's why we're so often anxious about our personal safety.
I think it's a very scary thought if we have to really consider it, John.
Yeah.
That you've got policemen, in the case of Witness F, that would share an internal SAPS CAS screen grab.
Yeah. Case docket.
Showing who the investigating officer is and what the case is and the progress on the case. And he claims that Kat Matlala wanted to find out about essentially a domestic violence dispute concerning one of Kat Matlala's employees. But this turned out to be a very hectic murder case that happened in Mamelodi.
Yes.
And police obviously investigating. Allegedly, there were 50 rounds of bullets found on the scene. And this person that was killed, obviously this is a high-profile murder. If you think about 50 rounds, that's definitely talks to a hit. And sending Witness F, having his authority as a cop and abusing his powers by going onto SAPS's system, finding out what's going on, and then sending that to Vusumuzi Katmatlala, knowing full well that the investigating officer's details are listed on that screen grab. A very frightening thought.
Yeah, and just I have to mention this as an aside. Constant references to impalas. I assume impalas is a way of talking about bucks. And please deliver the bucks. There's no animals being moved around as was suggested in the Pala matter, but they're being buffaloes. Impala's a reference to money.
It would have been a different story if we were talking about buffaloes or rhinos, because then we could have referred to the money. But impalas, in this case, referring to bucks, allegedly that Vusi Muzikat Matlala had bought and provided to the suspended Deputy National Police Commissioner Shadrack Sibiya.
Oren Singh, an intriguing and important day at the Madlanga Commission. There'll be more tomorrow. Oren with a keen eye on this, and he'll update you throughout the day tomorrow as well. It's 5 o'clock.
This is EWN.
There is no solution. I don't even want to lie.
RAF board says no light at the end of the tunnel to fix its finances, and Suleiman Karim to know his fate on Thursday on testimony at Madlanga Commission. Good afternoon, I'm Maki Malapo. The board of the Road Accident Fund says it has no idea how to fix the organization's solvency problems. In a frank exchange with the Standing Committee on Public Accounts today, interim board chairperson Kenneth Brown, however, said he doesn't believe raising the fuel levy is the answer. The fuel funding model of the beleaguered organization featured is among a number of issues probed by Scopa during its inquiry into maladministration at the fund. Lindsay Dentlinger has the story.
While the board has been unable to give a definitive figure of the extent of the RAF's liabilities, indications are it stood at around 100 billion rand at the end of the last quarter, which ended in December. Chairperson of the Audit and Risk Committee, Ntina Themba, has appealed to Parliament to help rethink the funding model for the organisation.
If we fix the systems, can we get there for you, helping us to say, how do we then get the money? But we cannot stop the claims coming.
Asked what the board is proposing to turn the situation around, Themba had this to say.
There is no solution. I don't even want to lie. If anybody can come here and sit here and say to us there is a solution, I don't know.
Board Chairperson Kenneth Brown says there's a mismatch between the contributions made to the fund through the fuel levy and the benefits it's paying to road accident victims. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News.
Lawyers for the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry have argued that Northwest businessman Suleiman Karim seeks to permanently stifle the Commission's ability to call him to testify. Today, Karim's urgent bid to block his testimony was heard in the Johannesburg court. He wants to withhold his testimony that he has been subpoenaed to give on Friday, pending the outcome of his other court bid. Karim was implicated in General Nhlanhla Mkhonazi's July 6th press briefing and accused of meddling in police affairs. He's also accused of ensuring alleged crime boss Vusi Muzikat Matlala received payments from the police in relation to his 360 million rand tender. Khomozo Modise has more.
One of the points made by the Madlanga Commission, which is challenging Suleiman Karim's urgent court bid, is that he seems to be hoping to use his urgent application to ensure he never testifies. They claim that this is apparent because the Commission is set to end its work on the 16th of March. The Commission says it's clear that his main court bid, where he plans to challenge the decision to call him as a witness, will not be heard by then. If the Johannesburg High Court rules in the Madlanga Commission's favour, then Karim will be compelled to testify on Friday. Judgment on the matter has been reserved. Khomozo Modise, Eyewitness News.
Staying with the Commission, the Madlanga inquiry has heard testimony from Witness F today, a member of the Gauteng organised crime who claims he was raised by the late feared Pretoria taxi boss, Jonathan Mswazi Msibi. Msibi was named as the leader of the Big Five cartel during previous testimony before the Commission of Inquiry. Msibi, who died following a short illness in January 2024, was one of the founding members of the South African National Taxi Council, Santaco. Oren Singh has more.
The list of questionable characters that Witness F has confirmed to be close to continues to grow. Testifying partially in camera from a remote location due to safety concerns, the Gauteng member of organised crime has confirmed to have had close ties with criminally accused tender boss Vusi Muzikat Matlala. Witness F facilitated communication between Matlala and his superior, suspended Deputy National Police Commissioner Shadrack Sibiya. But the most surprising associate, someone he considers a father, is his confession to being raised by the late Pretoria taxi boss, Jonathan Mswazi Msibi.
I was raised by Mswazi.
when I was still in primary, up until I've matriculated. I was staying with him, Commissioner. I was looking up to him as a father. He looked up to me as a son.
Witness F is set to resume with his testimony tomorrow. Arun Singh, Eyewitness News.
Meanwhile, in the National Assembly, the Parliament Ad Hoc Committee probing police corruption has heard evidence from whistleblower Patricia Mashale that implicates politicians and police in crime cover-ups and for allegedly hiring hitmen from prison. Mashale, who was the first witness during today's public hearings, told the committee that corruption in the police is widespread and called on the committee to act. The committee is currently wrapping up its public hearings before it calls in more key witnesses. Babalo Ndenze has more.
Patricia Mashale's appearance follows months of evidence before the committee where her role as a police whistleblower was discussed. Today she took to the stand voluntarily to make more submissions, including how witnesses in the Free State Freda dairy farm case were murdered. Mashale says she was informed by a self-confessed hitman and prisoner, Zulinzi Manguhu, that police, including a former premier, are involved.
Masme Sipati Lichwana was killed by the same hitman who killed the Freda Farm witnesses. Mr. Nguru have implicated former Premier Asa Magashule. He have implicated the now retired General Mutsunyani.
Committee Chairperson Sovet Lechanyane noted how the use of prisoners as hitmen has been raised previously.
The former minister came here and said the worst of the crimes in South Africa are planned in our prison cells.
Lechanyane says the submissions are serious and will be considered by the committee. Babalo Ndenze, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
Meanwhile, Correctional Services Minister Pieter Groenewald has called for an independent commission of inquiry to probe instability at prisons in the Western Cape. Groenewald made the announcement in Parliament today while briefing the Portfolio Committee on Correctional Services. The minister joined other correctional services officials to answer questions about deaths in prisons and the alleged escape of a prisoner at Paulsmoor Correctional Centre. Carlo Peterson has more.
Minister of Correctional Services Pieter Groenewald believes a commission of inquiry is needed to investigate alleged corruption at Western Cape prisons. At least 12 officials from Goodwood Prison faced disciplinary action after 2 inmate deaths were reported at the facility. Groenewald says the erroneous release of a Paulsmoor prison inmate in September, which was later reclassified as an escape, also needs to be independently probed. The minister says the department recently received a final report related to the incidents. Groenewald adds disciplinary proceedings are underway against the officials involved in events at both facilities. Carlo Peterson, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
And in Brazil, a bus accident has killed at least 15 people, including 3 children. In a statement released this afternoon, a state official says the accident occurred in northeast Brazil. The bus had been carrying about 60 people taking part in a pilgrimage when it overturned in the rural interior of the country. Gold's trading at $4,915.97 an ounce. The rands is exactly at 16 to the dollar, at 21.87 to the pound, at 18.86 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $66.94 a barrel.
And in your traffic, let's go to Tshwane. There is queuing traffic on routes around the Fountains Valley Circle. Do use the N14 north towards the CBD. While on the November 1 South, there are some delays between Rigel Avenue and Botha Avenue.
In your sport, World Rugby defend World Cup opening match after fixtures are released. Arsenal and Chelsea fight for a Carabao Cup final spot. And Tiger Woods says a return to competitive golf is a long way off. Look at your weather. It's set to be a partly cloudy Wednesday in Gauteng with isolated showers and thunder showers expected tomorrow. Joburg will drop to overnight lows of 16 degrees and peak at highs of 31. Pretoria is at 17 and 32. Vereeniging will also drop to lows of 17 degrees and peak at highs of 31 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. The board of the Road Accident Fund says it has no idea how to fix the organization's solvency problems.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
702.
Drive home with John Perlman.
John Perlman, 3 to 6 p.m.
On 92.7 and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive, it's 10 minutes past 5. Do you remember this day 30 years ago? Yep, February the 3rd, 1996. winners of AFCON. I mean, it was an extraordinary time the year before. We won the Rugby World Cup at the first time of asking. We did the same in football. Was there anything we couldn't do? It's a great, great memory, and we're going to go back to it with Mark Fish, who was a key member of that team, partly because of his excellence on the pitch and the role he played in the team, but also and substantially because of the energy he generated around him. An iconic figure in a team full of iconic figures. Looking forward to talking to him. A real leader. And speaking of leaders, who is going to be the next leader of the Democratic Alliance? It's been something of a puzzling day. Lots of certainty in all sorts of news quarters saying that John Steenhuisen won't be seeking re-election. John Steenhuisen posting on social media has not necessarily directly contradicted it, but suggested something different. We're going to try and get some clarity on it, but more crucially, look at some of the bigger issues involved and bigger implications for South Africa's second largest political party. We'll do that with the founding leader of the DA, Tony Leon, my guest, shortly. This is 702 Drive. It's 11 minutes past 5.
EWN Traffic.
But first, we do need to make sure that if you are out there trying to get home or going to wherever you need to be next, that we help you as much as we can. EWN Traffic is brought to you by Outsurance. SMS the word out to 45142 now, and you could save on car insurance. If you don't, ask them for 500 Rand. Kabazela, Jonathan Fairburn is your guide and your guy.
Yeah, John, traffic is pretty busy at the moment, and looking at Bryanston, there's queuing traffic on the N1 South between the Buccleuch Interchange and Winnie Mandela Drive. In Lindbro Park, expect a bit of a hold-up along the N3 South between Marlborough Drive and Vincent Chabalala Road. In Bedford View, there's queuing traffic on the N3 South between the Galulis Interchange and Geldenhuys Interchange due to an accident. Traffic is backed up on the Mike 1, both directions between Corlett Drive and Grayston Drive due to roadworks and obviously peak time traffic. And on the Mike 1 South towards the Joburg CBD, there are delays from Empire Road to the Crown Interchange. If you're in the Bedford View area, there's been an accident on the R24 West at the N12 merge, casing more than 20-minute delays there. And then in Tembisa, there are roadworks on the R21 North towards Olifantsfontein Road, causing heavy delays. Looking to Tshwane, there's queuing traffic on routes around the Fountains Valley Circle, so use the N14 North towards the CBD. And while on the N1 South, there are some delays between Rigel Avenue and Boerta Avenue. So if we've missed anything there, please do let us know on the 702 WhatsApp line. You can send us a message or a voice note on 072 702 1702. EWN Kabazela Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Love is in the air this month, but the aftercare teachers won't be feeling the love if you're late for pickup. Fortunately, the Outsurance pointsmen are here to ease the traffic congestion so you can get to the school on time. With the Outsurance pointsmen on the roads for the past 20 years, we can all get where we need to be quickly and safely. With Outsurance, you always get something out. In proud partnership with 702, show them some love online using hashtag pointsmenlove, licensed insurer and FSP.
Driving the conversation on 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Powered by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Well, after a day in which a large number of people, certainly in my world in the media, seemed pretty sure about what the DA leader, John Steenhuisen's next move might be, he posted this 5 hours ago now on the social media platform X, and I'll read it. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. I will make an announcement of national importance. Until you see me outlining the full set of facts tomorrow, avoid speculation, and as a way of emphasizing the risks of speculation, he posts a very iconic picture from the world of American electoral politics. It shows the man who became the U.S. president at the time, Harry Truman. I think the year was 1948. He's holding up a headline from one of the country's major papers, or not a headline, the front page of the Chicago Daily Tribune, which says, "Dewey defeats Truman. It was absolutely incorrect." And the huge smile on Harry Truman's face as he holds up the newspaper confirms that fact. But clearly there is something going on in regard to the leadership of the DA. We don't know finally. We won't know finally until 10 a.m. tomorrow, but I think we can start looking for some clues. And who better to help us with that than my next guest? He is the founding leader of the Democratic Alliance, Tony Leon. A very good afternoon and thanks for your time on 702.
Thanks very much, John. Nice to be with you again.
What would be the implications for the DA were John Steenhuisen not to be its leader? Mainly positive in your view or problematic potentially?
Well, I'd rather talk about the position, which I once held, than the personalities, because that can get a little difficult.
Awkward.
I think from a positioning point of view, it's actually a good thing to have leadership renewal. You know, when you and others invited me to talk about this, I toted up the figures, and I was leader of the party for an extraordinarily long time, but really was in two phases. First, the Democratic Party, which I led for some 6 years, and then Democratic Alliance from formation until I stood down 2007 for 7 years. Helen Zille replaced me, had an 8-year stretch. She then went more or less on her own terms, as I did, more or less on my own terms, never quite entirely as you want to be, but broadly. Musi Maimane did not go on his own terms. He lasted 4 years, and John Steenhuisen has been there for 5 or 6 years. I need to say this, that in the immediate aftermath of every leader leaving, including me, in the next election, the party's electoral fortunes improved because people see leadership changes, provided they don't lead to a civil war and to an internal bloodletting, and I suspect in the DA this won't happen if there's a leadership change, that the party will actually improve its standing as a result of the leadership change, not just because of any personalities, but more materially because people see it as a sign of reinvigoration, of renewal, of repurposing, whatever it is, John. So actually, in and of itself, if you change leaders at a critical moment, that can be a good thing in terms of your electoral prospects. There are a whole lot of other considerations, of course, especially because the DA is now in a much more complicated position than it had when I was at the helm, and that is it's in the government, but it's also very much in certain areas confronting the governing party or the majority, whatever the ANC now is. It's confronting the ANC. It's governing with it, and it's confronting it outside, and that requires a lot of deftness.
So let me put the question to you a different way then, and ask you this, Mr. Leon. What has the DA done well under John Steenhuisen's leadership, and where has it fallen short in your view?
Okay, I think, you know, he can really pocket and should claim 3 wins that not just he helped happen, but they also happened on his watch, and amounts the same thing when you're the leader. I mean, historically, he is the first DA leader or leader of any party going all the way back to the origins of the Progressive Party to lead the party into government in 2024. That's an historic achievement, and he was the man at the helm when it happened. Secondly, if you go back before that to 2019, when they were a very unhappy and divided party after the rupture caused by Musi Maimane's leaving the party in much less happy circumstances than Helen left the leadership, or I did before her. And he helped, I think, to a great degree to stabilize the party at that time and give it a renewed sense of purpose and mission, which, of course, helped it to improve its position somewhat, not greatly, in the 2024 election, having had a reversal in 2019. So I think those are considerable wins, and I think they do cement a legacy, if indeed it's a legacy that's going to be unveiled tomorrow and not another rerun. I think the more challenging aspects, once again, I think this would challenge anyone, so I'm not personalizing it, has been to marry these contradictory roles of being in government but highly critical of the ANC. Now, some people have suggested, in fact, if you strip out all the personal attacks that Dion George made on John Steenhuisen, which I thought were problematic, but leaving all those aside, he asked one essential question. He said, the DA has been muzzled in government, and it's now part of an ANC criminal enterprise. Oh, you can ask a lot of questions about Dr. George and what he did to unmuzzle it, but that's no longer relevant. I think that question remains. And I think, if John stands again, apparently he won't, but I don't know what his tweet means. And more material, if he doesn't stand and others come to the fore, they need to answer that question. And look, I mean, one way that I think John's position, it was self-created, was difficult, was that he was literally sitting around the cabinet table and had to be highly critical of cabinet members and his other role as DA leader. One way out of that, and it's the role taken by the Freedom Front leadership when they switch leaders,
yes,
is for the next leader of the DA, or even the current one, in a changed position, to actually step out of government and lead the party from outside the cabinet. That's entirely constitutionally possible and politically might be smart. That's one way of dealing with, I think, what the question of, are you being muzzled, and what can you do?
It may of course relocate a contradiction rather than resolve it. But I'd like your view on this. I obviously haven't followed John Steenhuisen's doings and career in any detail. I did have the impression he was in his absolute element as chief whip and in combat on the parliamentary floor, where I thought he really excelled in that role. Isn't the challenge, though, that your best politician in one area may not necessarily be the best person to lead a party, which in many ways is an entirely different job? And I'm wondering if that may come into play when the DA, if John Steenhuisen steps aside, picks the next leader.
Could well be a factor. Look, I mean, roles aren't always interchangeable. And one of the candidates being touted, Jordan Hill-Lewis, has an executive position at the moment. He's the mayor of Cape Town. Obviously, it's a very DA-dominant city, but he has executive experience. And that might be a help in the situation. But, look, I mean, all those personal factors are very important. And obviously, I was at the Met on the weekend for my sins of many years' absence of the horse races. And I was struck by the fact that, you can have the best jockey imaginable on a horse. But if the horse lacks kind of, the right form, if it's if it's, gets distracted, if his eyes aren't on the course, even the best jockey can't get the horse to the finish post in the number one box. So if you apply that very inelegant metaphor to the world of politics, John,
yes,
I would say that the personality is obviously important. He does set the identity of the party to a large extent, but the party itself as an institution, and I kept getting calls and angry and urgent messages from a whole lot of folk who are very loyal, long-standing soldiers. They say, why doesn't someone do something? Can't you do something? I said, look, the party as an institution, not, Tony Leon sitting outside or John Steenhuisen inside, needs to take stock of where it is. And I think this Congress, aside from electing a leader, needs to actually look at it very closely, interrogate its positioning, what the party is for, who it represents and who it wants to represent, and what is its offer. And absent of that happening, I'm not talking about diktat from the leader, but the actual party rank and file, giving that real consideration, not just the normal hoopla and television infomercials that party congresses are. I think whoever the leader is going to, not be able to answer that question.
So Tony Leon, let me return to something you said. The first DA leader to lead the DA into government, not under ideal circumstances, but a decision that was made, weighing up various facts, and I'm sure there will be close examination in the elective conference examining what's been achieved and where problems might have arisen. But if the DA were to become the government under different circumstances, not necessarily an outright majority, but the largest party in a government of that nature, equivalent to the one we have now, they're going to have to do substantially better at the polls. I mean, that's what the numbers tell us. So your view then on what the new leader of the DA, whoever it is, has to do to make the party more popular and more electable?
Well, look, I don't want to retreat into a cliche here, John. He's got to broaden its appeal. I mean, I used to say when I was a leader that that who you're answerable to. You're answerable to the electorate and your party Congress, which is the internal auditor. And the electorate gives its judgment by either awarding you more votes or fewer votes. Now, in truth, with the exception of Musi Maimane in 2019, every DA leader from the beginning of the DA in 2000, in its modern form, has advanced the party at the electoral polls. But the next chap or woman has got to do it, as you said, in a perhaps a more dramatic point, because the last increase was rather modest. I mean, actually, the numbers of votes declined in 2024, but the percentage went up 1% or so.
I mean, something just to jump in and perhaps more tightly frame my question, Mr. Leon. Something fundamental has to change, surely. Otherwise, at this rate of incremental growth, measured against the extraordinary pace at which South Africa's problems deepen, this is not a race the DA is going to win, is it?
Well, unless you believe in the tortoise versus the hare fable, because the one thing, John, that is actually helping the DA day by day, well, there are two things, and actually the leader can assist this, but he's not central to it, or she isn't. Number one, the ANC really is falling in front of our faces on every measure and every by-election, and it's clear, and it's going to happen again in the local elections. That's one thing that has only got very little to do with what the DA does or doesn't do. It's doing it all on its own, unassisted. The second thing is, and this I base entirely on polls and the very infamous anecdotal evidence one gets, it seems to me that with all the difficulties and compromises and muzzling, which the DA's participation, the GNU, has led to claims being made in that regard, it seems to me that just by being there, to quote my book on the topic, in the government, that a lot of folk who would never ordinarily, perhaps in the proverbial month of Sundays, have considered the DA as a political option, now look at the party more favorably. And here we talk about, the great holy grail of DA in South African politics, black disaffected voters. Why don't they choose the party? On the polls I saw recently from the Social Research Foundation suggested that by being in the government, the DA is actually now more of an attractive option to a lot of those disaffected voters than it ever was in the past. So that's kind of a structural advantage that the next leader must work with or on.
Thank you very much, Tony Leon, founding leader of the Democratic Alliance. 10 a.m. is when John Steenhuisen will deliver, to use his own words, quote, an announcement of national importance. And all of this is to do with the considerable speculation as to whether he would be available to be re-elected as the leader of South Africa's second largest party. We thank Tony Leon for his time. 28 minutes past 5.
EWN Business.
Stephen Critters, a very good afternoon to you. Much better day on the markets. I don't know what the opposite of whiplash is that I asked you yesterday. I suppose it applied because the whiplash was mainly around terrible things happening. This is maybe just the stiff neck from better scenery.
Yeah, well, I think it's, looking up and down too much.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not famous for nodding at everything I'm told, except for nodding off. But, I mean, it really is sort of astonishing, the big bounce that we've seen. Gold, not quite at $5,000 US an ounce yet, but heading that way. Silver recovering quite strongly too. The JSE All Share recovering as a result, up 1.36%, 120,516 points. Financials up 0.31. Industrials down over half. And then resources this time yesterday down 5%, up 4.2% at the end of the day. And it's actually across the board in terms of resources. Kumba are up 6.76%. Anglo 5.78%, Anglo Gold up 5.2%, Implat's up 5%. They did say today they expect their headline earnings to be up by around 400% in the 6 months to the end of December. Obviously, higher platinum prices driving that. Valterra up 5% as well. And so all of those mines doing very, very nicely on the day. And you can understand why when you start to see such a big shift in what was happening yesterday. The Super Group saying they expect their headline earnings from continuing operations in the year to the end of December to be up by around down 25%. And Harmony Gold also up on the day. They say they expect higher gold prices to mean they should hit their full year targets. They'll produce around 1.5 million ounces of gold. Has had some problems with mill motor failure at the mine that's called Hidden Value. We Buy Cars down 6.5%, Richmond down 2.25%, and Telkom down 2%. And Impact, they're the packaging company. They have a nice big operation in Springs in Gauteng, saying they might have to shut that down. That's 377 jobs that will go. So they produce the kind of packaging you'd use if you're eating Chicken Licken or KFC, or something a little healthier like bran, or sort of in the middle like cornflakes. But the problem is that the rand has strengthened so much, it's cheaper for companies to import that stuff. I mean, I have visions of containers full of cornflakes boxes, but that's the problem that they have, and so this is becoming a big issue for them. In the US, we've started to see a little bit of a bounce back. So yesterday, obviously, things were fairly disastrous. What we've also seen is a huge number of results. So lots of different companies are releasing their results today, and this week in particular. And as a result, that really does make it sort of harder for people to know where things are going. But that also suggests then that we're starting to see that the US markets are turning the corner, as it were, and that's having quite a big impact. And I think that's going to be the story for pretty much the rest of the day there. Let's just see how much more data comes through. But for the moment, the US, the Dow Jones is up 0.11. In fact, the Nasdaq just turning negative in the last couple of minutes, down 0.89, and the S&P 500 down 0.41. The gold price at the moment is $4,924.60, platinum $2,255.10, Brent crude $66.69 an ounce. The rand to the dollar 15.97, so strengthening again, to the euro 18.84, to the British pound 21.85. Burgernomics being served for you on the Money Show tonight. John, you'll know of the Big Mac Index.
Yes.
And it tells you how much the rand in your pocket really is worth, not compared to the dollar, but how much you could buy if you were in the US, how much you could buy with it, as opposed to what you can buy here. It's called the Big Mac Index. It really sort of explains what, the way that currencies actually relate to each other in real terms. If you look at that, we should be 9 rand to the dollar rather than just below 16. So a big focus on that tonight. Also, the city of Joburg seems to have more billing issues. We'll find out why that's such a problem for councils. And then also, of course, don't forget personal finance this evening. Stephen Crotus, EWN Business.
Thanks, stuff. Good. Thanks, Stephen. Good stuff ahead between 6 and 8. It's 28 minutes now to 6 o'clock. Let's get the very latest eyewitness news with Maki Mulapo. Lots of back and forth still on the Midrand water situation. What are they saying now? Good afternoon.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. Deputy Minister for Water and Sanitation David Mahlobo has cautioned that low-lying areas in Midrand and Tshwane may still experience low pressure as the system remains vulnerable during the recovery phase. Water tankers have been dispatched to affected communities with additional teams assigned to monitor pressure and prevent further infrastructure failure. Mahlobo has urged residents to avoid hoarding water, which he says could delay full recovery.
When you do the water hawking, remember the main system of the Clifffontaine reservoirs were pumping at the highest level in the Palmas system right now. The 1.8 billion, that's what we're pumping now. But if you pump, you don't store, and then it just flows through the system on the other side in terms of the absorption. The system will take a little bit longer. To sufficiently have water, we want the system by tomorrow to be at 40%.
South Africa has taken a major step forward in the fight against HIV, and Africa is moving closer to a potential vaccine. The first in-human clinical trial of a new HIV vaccine has officially launched in Cape Town. It marks a historic milestone for the continent. South Africa has an estimated 8 million people living with HIV, making it the country with the largest epidemic. Ntutuzelo Nene has more.
The study has been launched at the Desmond Tutu HIV Foundation at Grooteskier Hospital. The groundbreaking HIV trial has already enrolled its first group of 20 HIV-negative volunteers. They will help scientists assess the safety and immune response of the vaccine. Leading health researcher at Wits University, Professor Glenda Gray, says this early phase of the study is a critical step in the long and complex journey toward an effective HIV vaccine.
What we are trying to attain is what
what we call a functional cure, so that the interventions we give keep the virus at bay, so you don't have to be on treatment.
And if successful, the study could bring renewed hope to millions across Africa and the world. Ndutuzelo Nene, Eyewitness News.
And in case you missed it, the revised fuel prices for February are set to take effect at the stroke of midnight, with a reprieve in store for motorists. Thanks to a surging rand against the dollar, both grades of petrol will cost 65 cents less per litre. The second consecutive drop in some prices brings the price of petrol to its lowest in 4 years. Diesel will also drop by 57 cents per litre, and the local currency gave the biggest buffer to fuel prices despite slightly higher oil prices during the period under review. Spokesperson for the Mineral and Petroleum Resources Department, Robert Maike.
Both grades of petrol will decrease by 65 cents a litre. Diesel will decrease by 50 and 57 cents a litre. Illuminating paraffin at retail level will decrease by 70 cents a litre. And LP gas will increase by 31 cents countrywide and by 36 cents in Western Cape. The slate levy remained unchanged at 0 cents per litre in the price structure of both petrol and diesel.
I'll look at your weather. It's said to be a partly cloudy Wednesday in Gauteng, with isolated showers and thunder showers expected tomorrow. Temperatures will drop to overnight lows of 16 and 17 degrees and peak at highs of 31 and 32 degrees.
And in your traffic, in 4 ways, traffic is congested along several roads, including Winnie Mandela Drive, Leslie Road, Witkoppen Road, and Main Road. So try to be patient there. And in Tshwane, in Centurion, there's queuing traffic on the November 1 South between John Forster Drive and the Brakfontein interchange.
The top story in Eyewitness News, Deputy Minister for Water and Sanitation David Mahlobo has cautioned that low-lying areas in Midrand and Tshwane may still experience low pressure as the system remains vulnerable during the recovery phase.
Clement Maniatella.
Weekday mornings,
9 to 12.
9 to 12.
How long do you think it's going to take for us to clear that backlog, and where is it sitting at now?
The backlog is huge. Remember, when I'm saying to you we've built 4 million houses, you don't know who's staying in that house. And there have been always accusations of corruption, houses not handed over. So we are having a program with SITA technologically where we would want to load everybody. We're going to load and say Clement Maniatella stays in RDP in Jablan. He received it in 1996. And you're going to say, hey, I've never received that house. You can also be able to check yourself in the phases that will come as a beneficiary that, oh, okay, yes, I'm registered and now I'm number what.
Minister, let me thank you. Thank you so much for making time for us.
Clements Maniatella.
9 to 12 on 702.
Water infrastructure vandalism has tragic and dangerous consequences. The theft of manhole covers can result in fatalities, especially among children. And each damaged pipe, illegal hookup or vandalized pump jeopardizes access to clean water, disrupts service and threatens public safety. Report suspicious activity to the City of Johannesburg at 0800 002 587. Help combat water infrastructure vandalism. Your alertness can prevent disasters. Brought to you by Johannesburg Water, a water utility that cares.
The Checkers Hyper Price Drop is here. Save up to 40% on deals like Nola Mayonnaise 750 grams, any 4 for 149 Rand. Save 51 Rand. Douwe Egberts Instant Coffee, 400 grams for 279 Rand. Save 71 Rand. And Twin Saver 2-ply toilet rolls, 24 per pack for 159 Rand. Save 31 Rand. Deals valid until this Sunday, only at Checkers Hyper.
Know a little about a lot, from headlines to horsepower, parenting to pop culture. If you stay switched on with News 24, it's time to cash in. Play the Raise Your Game quiz every day this week from 1 p.m. on 702 afternoons with Rilebogile Maboja. Answer 3 questions, stack your winnings, and walk away with up to 5,000 Rand cash. Thanks to News 24. Enter now on primemediaplus.com. The Raise Your Game quiz with News 24. Only on 702. TCs and more on primemediaplus.com.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Just a quick one. Tomorrow is the first Wednesday of the month.
Is there any change to the fuel price? Petrol and diesel going up or down? I haven't heard anything on the news. And this is normally the time of change. Okay.
Yeah, petrol price is changing. Let me share with you the news. Wednesday, 4 February, so presumably that is midnight. The price of 93 and 95 octane petrol will decrease by 65 cents per litre. But it's still going to be a litre. It's not like one of those chocolate price decreases where they make the bars smaller. Price of diesel is down by 50 cents per litre. The sulfur, slight difference depending if there's less sulfur, you'll pay 57 cents per litre. No, that's the size of the decrease. You didn't ask about paraffin, but I may as well tell you 53 cents less per litre. The price of LP gas increases by 31 cents a kilogram. Yeah. A lot of coverage over that, but I'm glad I can update you on the good news. Not always the case. It's 20 minutes to 6.
EWN Sport.
Pirates in action tonight. The Betway Premiership is a nice, close, exciting race this year, Tolakele.
Absolutely, John, and they could move 3 points clear at the top of the standings this evening. That's with the win over AmaZulu, who are fourth in the league. The Buccaneers are targeting a first league title since the 2011-12 season, and Adesanya Adu has discussed if their early exit from the CAF Champions League was a blessing in disguise.
I think for me it's far away from what we are doing now. We are only focused in our target, what we want to achieve with Orlando Pirates. I don't like to speak too much about the other teams. Of course, this game is a bit far away since we played them, but we want to focus in the league now and in the Nedbank Cup for us. Yeah.
Arsenal will look to finish the job when they clash with Chelsea in the second leg of their Carabao Cup semi-final tonight, a tie in which they lead 3-2 on aggregate. Mikel Arteta's Gunners are full of confidence at the moment as they sit top of the Premier League, finish top of the UEFA Champions League table, and are also through to the fourth round of the FA Cup.
Well, first of all, because you work to win major trophies and the enjoyment that brings, then, as you said, the confidence, the trust, the belief, and unlock something on you, and then you want more. And it's a cycle that you want to repeat constantly, and we still have to do that, and some of them, they never done it, so it's always a first time.
Tad Furlong has added to Ireland's injury problems, having been ruled out of their Six Nations opener against France. The Irish are already without around a dozen injured players, including all three of their first-choice loosehead props. It'll be a special day for the Pendergast family. That's after coach Andy Farrell named Kieran in his starting 15 alongside his brother Sam.
We feel he's matured a lot. The captaincy is certainly helping him, and in Connacht as well, taking the responsibility, I would have thought, just away from just himself, and able to channel his thoughts in another way. Certainly matured him as a player, that's for sure. But we was delighted with how he took his chance in the autumn, because he's another one who's been waiting for a big moment. You know, he's been waiting in the wings for a good few years, so his time is now to be taken.
And cricket bats previously deemed illegal for adult amateur players will be allowed. That's after a change in the law brought about by the rising cost of English willow. The MCC, who are the custodians of the laws of cricket since 1787, announced the move as one of 73 changes that will come into effect this year. The Type D bats had only been permitted in junior cricket, while the MCC have dismissed concerns that laminated bats could give a performance advantage. Tolagele Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
I could have had a triple laminated bat. It would have given me no advantage, because you do have to make contact with the ball, you know.
Exactly.
That's
you still have to hit it.
Pretty crucial when it comes to cricket. Well, if you're batting, at least. Jonathan Fairbairn, how are we looking on the roads?
Yeah, I mean, I hope the journey home this evening has been pretty okay for you. If you're stuck in traffic, just be patient. You're almost there. But some of the stuff that's causing some problems this evening, a pile-up on the Mike 1 South has been extended with delays from the Killarney Bend to Xavier Street in Ormonde. In Jet Park, try to avoid the R21 South. There are heavy delays between Griffiths Road and the N12 exit. Fourways is a bit congested along several roads, including Winnie Mandela Drive, Leslie Road, Vidkoppen Road, and of course Main Road. Then heading towards Germiston, expect more than a 20 to 30 minute hold up on the N3 South between Marlborough Drive and Van Buren Road. Looking at Swanee, Swanee's behaved pretty nicely today, but one or two little incidents there. Centurion, there's queuing traffic on the N1 South between John Foster Drive and the Brakfontein interchange. And while on the N1 South, there are some delays between Rigel Avenue and Boerta Avenue. EWN Kabazela on your traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app. Stay with 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
You're with John Perlman
on 702.
702 Drive, it's 5:45. Now, we did promise you a conversation with Mark Fish looking back on this day 30 years ago. It doesn't seem so long ago to me, but that's just the way it appears to me. That wonderful, wonderful triumph in our very first attempt to lift the African Cup of Nations. But let's just play you this. Earlier in the day, you might have heard Mark Williams' first goal. Let's listen.
Beautiful tackle. Racing through. There's a great chance. That's it. Williams. 2 goals in 2 minutes. And this man remains remarkably calm. The substitute has had a glorious finish. It has put South Africa right out of sight.
Yeah, it was a very, very special memory. A wonderful, wonderful team of players. As I said, so many huge personalities in it, and led by one of South African football's great personalities, the late, much loved and often remembered Clive Barker. Boy, did he get the absolute best out of that 1996 Cup of Nations squad. So we'll keep getting on the phone and seeing if we can get Mark Fish to come on with us. But in the meanwhile, let's get going with some music. We thought we'd look back on 1996 and other memories that maybe are prompted by music, great hits of that time. Now, I'm going to link it to the football and say, if you remember your celebration with friends, maybe you went out into the streets and joined a street party or whatever, was there a particular song or maybe some songs from that time? And bearing in mind it was February, we may have to get some songs from 95 as well. But was there a song that you associate with that wonderful time? We're also just going to play for you, by the way, some of the really great songs from 1996. Starting with this one, we don't have Mark Fish, but we do have Mark Morrison. Remember this one, Return of the Mac. Yeah, it's a great, great song, I think. Return of the Mac, Mark Morrison. Just to give you a perspective, by the way, on how successful that song was in his home country of the UK, it got a double platinum record after selling 1.8 million units. Now, I know when you go into the world of downloads, that is the world of modern music, just remember, downloads are free. He had to get people to part with cash 1.8 million times. So anyway, that was back in 1996. Things were different then. 30 years ago, what hasn't changed, of course, is our absolute love of football in particular, but also our love of South African teams that succeed on the world stage. If you want to share by way of a piece of music your memories of that Bafana Bafana triumph back on the 3rd of February 3 decades ago, drop us a note. Maybe the song you associate with a really wonderful time, because it wasn't just the final, you know. We played some really great football. Never more so, I thought, than in that incredible semi-final against Ghana. Terrific. Sean Bartlett, a really razor-sharp edge up front for us on that night. 7:02 Drive, it's 10 minutes to 6.
Bongani Bingwa, 702 Breakfast.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9.
Professions you won't date. Medical forensic pathologist. You know, one who does postmortems because of... Now, I would persistently think, where have those hands been during the day? And number two is, what on earth scares you?
I was open to anything, but then I found out that people don't want to date journalists for various reasons.
The police, military.
Law enforcement, the police.
No. It's the risk of what can happen to you, right?
What about the police?
Bongani Bingwa, 6 to 9.
On 702.
Mzansi, it is official. MasterChef SA has a new home on ETV. The kitchen you love, the chefs you cheer for, and all the flavor you live for on our Cooking on ETV. To prep for Season 6, dropping soon on ETV, tuck into MasterChef SA Celebrity Edition, a light, fun, and irresistible palate cleanser. It's the same MasterChef SA you love, serving up excitement from the first bite to the big season ahead. Now on ETV, every Sunday at 6 p.m.
Do you suffer from heartburn and hyperacidity? To relieve heartburn for the whole day and night with one tablet, a potent once-a-day treatment which was previously prescription only is now available over the counter. Ask your pharmacist for an over-the-counter, long-lasting heartburn treatment. Brought to you by Sandoz.
Driver on the road or driver on the golfing green? Auto & General covers the world's best drivers. Auto & General, the official regional insurance partner of Live Golf South Africa 2026, and 702 are putting your driver knowledge to the test for your chance to win a share of 100,000 Rand. Up to the challenge? WhatsApp 072 702 1702 with the keyword Auto & General and follow the prompts. Every day this week, 702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa could call you back to play. Thanks to Auto & General on 702. T-C's and more on primemediaplus.com. Auto & General is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP.
702 Drive with John Perlman was proudly brought to you by Telkom Business. Possibility begins here.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Okay, so songs from 1996, whether you have a specific memory that connects that song or a celebratory moment to our triumph in the African Cup of Nations, or just a song from that year that you remember as being really special. Drop those off to us on 072 702 1702 and 011 883 0702. This from Mnyamazeli, who says, Boys to Men and Mariah Carey, One Sweet Day. In fact, it's from Patrick, sending that all the way from Piri. Let's enjoy it.
Sorry, I've never told you all I wanted to say, and now it's too late to hold you, 'cause you've flown away, so far away.
Never had I imagined
Mariah Carey and Boys to Men. We're looking back on musical hits of the year 1996 when Bafana Bafana were the hits of Africa. On the South African, I mean, we were sort of trawling to see what was big musically in South Africa, and we came up with this one by Scheme.
Weekend special at the Busa no the guy. Then out at the 2 piece no the guy. We must have many at the Busa no the guy. I'm a take Kia Sashes no the guy. See I'm a soldier no Chico no the guy.
Scheme, Vavas J and Vavas J when Bafana Bafana beat Tunisia on that day. Were you in the stadium? Send us a memory if you like. If you were listening, or well, who was not many people, I think, were listening. They were probably watching it on TV, although radio had a huge crew of reporters there as well, and presumably a big audience to go with it. But yeah, Vavas J.
Hi, John and 702 listeners. Yeah, Spice Girls. Wanna be. Yeah, that was the song, eh? I don't even know. I can't exactly remember how it goes, but like I got in my mind, and that was the song for 1996 for me, eh? Like checking all of the Spice Girls in the video. As far as I remember, they were running and doing all of these actions and stuff. And I was pretty young. I think I was just entering my teens, if I'm not mistaken. So I could be like 11 or 12 years old. But damn, yeah, that was the song. Spice Girls, Wanna Be.
Macarena. John, afternoon or evening, it's late. It's Macarena. Hey, Macarena. Macarena. You remember Macarena? Yes, Macarena.
When I dance, they call me Macarena, and the boys they say que soy buena. They all want me, they can't have me, so they all come and dance with me.
Yeah. There are some things I miss about 1996, and then there are some other things. Anyway, a lot of people like that song, Los del Rio, Macarena. Let's get the Spice Girls to see if they can save me.
Yo, I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I wanna really, really, really wanna zig a zig ah.
If you want my future, forget my past.
If you wanna get with me, better make it fast. Now don't go wasting my precious time. Get your act together, we could be just fine. I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I wanna really, really, really wanna zig a zig ah. If you wanna be my lover, you gotta get.
Never thought I'd say it, Saved by the Spice Girls, but there you are. This is a wonderful one to play out with, and thank you to A.B. Zwane. Reminds us of a highly appropriate, actually, because really it was of the time, song by Vicky Sampson. You know it well.
Sometimes alone in the evening, I look outside my window at the shadows in the night. I hear the sound of distant crying, the
darkness multiplying, and weary.
Well, Clive Barker and his team certainly knew exactly what their African dream was, and they realized it 30 years ago. From all of us, good night. Okay, seems we've got a little bit of a music problem there. Nothing we cannot fix, because Stephen Curtis is here. The Money Show is next. Stephen.
Thank you, John. I'm better without music. The Money Show with Stephen Curtis is brought to you by Absa Corporate and Investment Banking, balancing economic growth with ecosystems. That's how they're invested in your story. Good evening. On your Money Show tonight, Bergonomics, purchasing power parity, and why the value of the rand in your pocket might just be greater than you think. The city of Joburg